for him and his supporters. This morning, Bobby was being cheered by the fans.
Fun, I might have to retire again. You only get one time, babe.
He took this lap after the warm-up and had a tremendous reception from both the crowd that had gathered in the early hours of this morning for the warm-up and from the teams down there in pit lane who all put on a suitable attire to congratulate Bobby on his tremendous 17-year career.
Yeah, he has been one of the real stars of this series over the past 15, 16 years.
There's an
He's
awful
won
lot
24
of love
races.
being exhibited right now as you come down and you take that lap and come down pit road.
I'm getting a piece of the action off all these glasses, but yeah, it's stupendous, you know. I never thought I'd see Michael Andretti look like that, but it's fun. It's great.
Everybody up and down pit road, everybody in the grandstand saluting you. Is it going to be hard to push that emotion away and get ready for 500 miles?
Well, right now I'm thinking of the race. You know, the car felt good this morning, so I just hope it'll all hang with us. But it's definitely a special day for me and my family, and very appreciative.
A special day for us because we get to wear one of these noses and the glasses. Have fun out there. Oh, he's got his own pair now. Now you're officially a member.
Well, that was a little bit earlier on today, but Bobby Rahall's career really has been very impressive. 3 championships, of course, in his time, 24 wins. It would be wonderful he could make it 25 here today. Stay with us to find out if he can. Well, that's the career of Bobby Rahall, and those of you watching in Europe and late evening in Europe, having seen perhaps all the fun and games of the Formula One earlier on over this weekend, now looking forward to this last race. We don't have the same championship battle for you, as we said, Zanardi very much confirmed, but looking back at the race we had at Michigan, we are in for a very exciting battle.
Unbelievable that event was. 62 official lead changes at the start-finish line. That doesn't count probably hundreds out around the 2-mile oval. This Hanford device, it just promotes close racing. I think we're going to have much more of the same this afternoon.
Well, you can look at Bobby Rahall's car there, by the way, Jeremy, and something we must mention. You see all those little squiggles on the side pods from this onboard camera? Those are autographs of fans. And what Bobby's done this weekend is he said, right, for a minimum of $25, there you are, there's a clearer look. For a minimum of $25 contribution to the Rahall Foundation, you can sign his side pod and have it in there for this final race of the year. So that's a real great opportunity for his fans.
It's great. You know, Bobby Rahall has done a lot for this sport over the years. This year he's founded the Bobby Rahall Foundation, and it's raised a lot of money for charities around the country throughout the whole season.
That's right, yes, those $25 doesn't go into Bobby's pocket, it goes to some very worthy causes, and that last ride tour of this year, he says he's done hundreds of interviews just this week coming into this last race. Busy time for him. Cars on their warm-up lap at the moment. Let's take a look now at how they line up for the start of this race. Scott Pruitt on pole position then. Jimmy Vasser alongside him in the Ganassi car. The second row of the grid, Michael Andretti, who led in the early stages here last year. Alongside him, another American, Richie Hearn.
5th fastest, Bobby Rahall's very much the centre of attention this weekend. Mauricio Gugelmin, the pole winner last year, 6th this time around. On row 4, Gugelmin's teammate, Mark Blundell. Pat West needs a good result this weekend. Dario Franchitti, the hot man, winner of 3 of the last 5 races.
Behind the 2 British drivers, Greg Moore is on the 5th row of the grid with Gilles de Ferran alongside him, and then on the 6th row of the grid, Christian Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy, Franchitti's teammate at Team Green.
Row 7, Alan Sir Jr. still seeking Roger Penske's 100th win. Can it come on Roger's track? And Patrick Carponche, the second of the players' cars. On row 8, Alex Barron, the best ever performance for this young rookie driver, and alongside him another rookie, Helio Castro Neves.
9th row of the grid, 2 great rivals, Brian Herter, Alex Zanardi, neither of them qualified too well. The 10th row of the grid, Andre Ribeiro and JJ Leto.
21st fastest, Arndt Meyer, the only Lola in the field, and Robbie Gordon, the final race he will have for Archero Wells Racing, Tony Kanaan and Max Papis on row 12.
13th row of the grid, Michel Jourdain Jr. from Mexico, alongside him is Vincenzo Sospiri from Italy, and the final row of the grid, no time for either Adrian Fernandez or Dennis Vitolo. They both had problems. Fernandez crashed in qualifying, Vitolo had mechanical problems. They will be starting at the back of the field. The pace car lights are already out, and so we are going to be coming around at the end of this lap to start off the first of 250 laps. And just to remind you, there are $1 million on offer to the winner of this race, and it's only the winner who gets a big payday. The prize money for the other positions is as standard, so second place man, in fact we've got a bit more than this lap I think to go before the start of the race, but the second place man will earn the normal amount, which is $60,000. That's what you normally get for a second place finish, but the winner is going to get that massive $1 million, so it is really all to play for. So the cars coming past our commentary position, they are heading down to take the green flag this time, so this is it. This is the start of the championship US 500, the Marlboro 500 here from California as we get underway, and it's the two front row men, Scott Pruitt and Jimmy Vasser. And remember, Michigan, look for all the jostling for position, and already you can see Michael Andretti getting up amongst those lead pair.
And a relatively slow start there caused a real accordion effect in the middle of the field. They seem to have sorted themselves out, but look at this, 3 wide coming off the back straight, and down the back straight there goes Jimmy Vasser down the inside.
Look at Michael Andretti though. Michael Andretti's got the inside. He's got even more of a toe, and it's Vasser versus Andretti as they head up through turns 3 and 4 past our commentary position. And Andretti and Vasser absolutely together, but Vasser still has the slight edge, so he leads at the end of lap number 1 out of 250. And a long afternoon in prospect here as they race as hard as possible, allowing for reliability and for the fact that this Hanford wing, this device at the back of the car, this rear wing which creates more drag, less downforce, introduced at Michigan earlier this season, really should see a great deal of overtaking all the way through the race. It is Jimmy Vasser though who leads. Michael Andretti is in second position. These two pulling away a little bit as Andretti goes to the outside this time.
Yeah, and he took advantage of that draft coming off the turn, and into turn 1 on the outside line. Into the lead goes Michael Andretti. A big cheer from the grandstands.
Brilliant stuff from Michael, and remember, last year he led a good part of the early stages of this race, only got to go out with overheating problems. Of course, we're right in the early laps here as they make their initial jostling for position. But you have to say that Michael Andretti is looking very good at the moment.
How about this, Robbie Gordon, he has come past that second lap in 9th position. He started 22nd.
Well, that just shows you, doesn't it, the benefit of the toe, and if you pick up the slipstream just right, and of course Robbie Gordon used to that from his NASCAR experience, he's obviously played the slipstreams just right and has earned himself 9th position at the end of just a couple of laps. Brilliant performance. You saw Gilles de Ferran there running in 3rd place. Our poleman, by the way, Scott Pruitt, finds himself back into 4th position, and he's just 1 ahead of Bobby Rahal. So Jimmy Vasser and Michael Andretti continuing the battle up front. Vasser having got back ahead of Andretti, and that was interesting because it really looked as though Andretti had made a bit of a break. He got away about 3 car lengths, but that just goes to show that the benefit of the toe, the effect of sitting behind another car and being pulled along by the vacuum, it's created a long way back. It's not just right behind the car.
That's absolutely right, Ben. You can feel that draft. Really, if you're 100 yards or more behind the car in front of you, you can still feel the effect of that slipstream, and it tends to suck you in towards the car in front of you. There is Greg Moore looking to make a move on Robbie Gordon. That is a battle for 9th position.
Yeah, good battle this one, and of course remember, Greg Moore was the winner of the other super speedway race this year at Michigan, and he worked the traffic beautifully to do that, particularly in the latter stages. Now, in these early stages, a long way to go. Let's just mention 1 or 2 of the others. There goes Moore, by the way, on the inside of Robbie Gordon. Makes the pass look fairly straightforward, and indeed it was fairly straightforward. Had a good toe there. Alex Zanardi is running down in 14th position. Al Unser Jr. finds himself down in 15th place, and meanwhile the battles are on all the way through the field. We're on board with Richie Hearn here. He lies in 8th position. Running up the back stretch here, the part of the track where it's straight, and we've got a report of smoke from the back of the number 3 car, and that's Andre Ribeiro's machine. And a confirmation this yellow is out. The yellow flag has come out, and
he's hit the wall.
Oh, he's hit the wall. There's
there
been
is
a big
Andre
accident.
Ribeiro. Yeah, there is the car of Andre Ribeiro, We heard a report of smoke as he came round turn 2. He carried on down the back straightaway and clearly lost it in turn 3 and has hit the wall.
Yes, that's right. And look at that back of that car. The right rear is completely mangled and fluid all over the track. And of course, that's going to take a little while to clean up the fluid on track. A very dangerous situation on the ovals. And Ribeiro there looks as though he's okay. He's getting out of the car already, and quite often it takes a little while before they're happy for the drivers to get out, so he obviously felt in good shape to be able to get out that quickly. And the first victim of the wall here today. Possibility that it could even be the last race for Andre Ribeiro for Penske.
A probability, I believe, Ben. There's a lot of talk that they will be cutting back just to one car next year, and that will be for Alonso Jr.
So Ribeiro, what will happen to him next year? We don't know yet, and sadly, he's our first retirement in this race. The pace car leading the cars around at the moment after our first accident of the afternoon. To Andre Ribeiro, crashed the Penske heavily in turn 3 after a report of smoke already from the back of the car. While the car's going slowly, a chance for us to catch up with some of the changes that are taking place for the 1999 season. Alex Zanardi leaving to go to Formula 1. He will be replaced by the Colombian Juan Pablo Montoya, the Formula 3000 champion. Other changes, Scott Pruitt replaces Robbie Gordon at Argiro Wells. There'll be Pioneer sponsorship there. PJ Jones replaces Scott Pruitt at Patrick Racing. And then Max Papis, who of course was at Argiro Wells, well, he replaces Bobby Rahal. Bobby will be taking the reins more so of the team. He'll be running it day to day, of course, but he won't be driving next year. Cristiano De Mata will move up from Indy Lights to replace Max Papis at Argiro Wells, and a new driver into the series, Naoki Hattori, also from the Indy Lights series, will become the second car for Walker Racing.
And Hattori, of course, a lot of experience in Japan, a very versatile driver. He's won championships over there, just about everything, Formula 3 and in touring cars. A close second to Ralf Schumacher a couple of years ago in the Formula Nippon, same as Formula 3000 effectively. So a lot of experience there. 2 years over here in Indy Lights and up into the championship cars next year.
Jimmy Vasser leads the field around. Michael Andretti, Gilles de Ferran, Scott Pruitt, Maurizio Gugelmin, Dario Franchitti are top 6, but a few more laps of yellow to go. So there is Jimmy Vasser, still behind the pace car and coasting round at these early stages. Tricky for them to get up to speed, and then straight away, almost before they had a chance to develop their rhythm, first yellow of the day comes out. Let's just hope it isn't a foreboding that we're going to get a lot of caution periods today.
Yeah, I think clearly there was some sort of a mechanical problem on Andre Ribeiro's car. They'd only done 6-7 laps. These engines, of course, pretty highly stressed around this racetrack. It's even in the early stages, they were up not far short of 230 miles an hour, and we're actually right around about 230 miles an hour. So right away, they were turning some pretty hot speeds here. And first couple of laps of yellow here, we had a few people into the pits. Richie Hearn, who was running 9th those opening stages, he came into the pits last time around, and also Elio Castroneves, Michel Jourdain and Dennis Vitolo. And this time around, another couple in the pits here as well. There is actually Elio Castroneves in one more time.
There's the car of Andre Ribeiro, and they've got that diaper on the covering to prevent any more fluid going on track. I think it's pretty much, it's got most of the fluid has come out of that car already. Water, oil all over the place beneath the car, as he was already smoking pretty heavily as he went up the back straight. So Andre Ribeiro out of this race. As you mentioned earlier, Jeremy, of course, Penske still looking for that very elusive 100th victory, and just doesn't seem to have been close really this year. They've now got Alonso Jr., their only car out there in this race. He lies down in 13th place, but wouldn't count him out. He's been running competitively this weekend, and they've certainly been getting better and stronger. Mercedes have definitely been working on top-end power, and knowing that this season finale is a very important race with $1 million on offer as well, and you can bet that the Mercedes-Benz power units for this race are going to be in top shape. Certainly that was Greg Moore's feeling after practice the other day. On board with Michael Andretti, running in second position at the moment. 11 laps have been completed here in Southern California, just going past these huge stands, and they are absolutely packed at the moment. Really tremendous crowd here of about over 100,000 people. Now, we were talking a little while ago about changes, who's going where. Juan Pablo Montoya is going to replace Alex Zanardi next year. We caught up with him earlier this weekend.
just become familiar with their system?
Yeah, everything, to understand how the pit works and everything, because in Europe, you know, first I never worked with pit stoppers before, so to understand how everything works, you know, in Europe they never close the pits or anything like it, so I wanted to understand everything, how everything's going to work.
It's amazing all of the elements that come together in a 500-mile race, because this pit crew obviously going to be tested 6-7 times, and you're going to be the guy in that seat come next year.
Yeah, it'll be fun, you know, they do always a great job, man. I'm sure next year will be the same.
I know he's excited. We're excited to watch him. Wish you well next year.
Thank you.
Juan Pablo Montoya.
So there's Juan Pablo Montoya, and of course we've seen him winning Formula 3000 races in Europe this year. He became the European Formula 3000 champion, and he's been doing some extremely impressive Formula 1 testing. But now he watches the champ cars there, down the field a little bit. In fact, in the 11th place, Paul Tracy. Tracy has certainly been the centre of attention once again here this weekend. He found that he has picked up a ban, but not a ban from any of the sessions this year, but indeed a ban from the first race of next year. Now, Jeremy, this goes back to the last race in Australia, where there was an incident between Tracy and Michael Andretti. Let's just take a look at what happened.
Here we are on board with Michael Andretti. You can see that Paul Tracy down to the inside, and Michael Andretti, he'd been getting very frustrated. You can see that contact between the two cars.
This race, and we've got 5 months to iron that out. Obviously, we have some telemetry that says different. We're going to talk about that with Wally and the people from CART. So, you know, we've got a long time to work it out.
So Tracy hoping that he's got some recourse, but whether he has, Wally Dallenbach has made the decision to ban him for the first race.
Yeah, and that's really a judge of fact is Wally Dallenbach, and there is no dispute. I actually had a quick word with Barry Green this morning, and Barry said, I really don't want to focus on that. I really don't want to talk about it this weekend. We'll talk about it in the future perhaps, but as far as he's concerned, there is no recourse, and that is the situation.
So it looks as though just the one Team Green car will be competing at Homestead to start next year. We'll take advantage of the yellow to take another break here. Car still going slowly behind the pace car as the clear-up operation for Andre Ribeiro's accident continues, and taking advantage to do a bit of sweeping and checking around the other parts of the circuit. Jimmy Vasser has slotted himself in right behind the pace car, about as close as he can get, perhaps in order to save a little bit of fuel or something clever. Andre Ribeiro, though, out of his car, and he is okay. That's good news, and in fact a chance to catch up with him down in the pit lane, see what exactly happened to him to put him out of the race.
Welcome back to the California Speedway, where the good news is that Andre Ribeiro is fine, but what happened?
I don't know yet. At the end of the back straight, when I was preparing to go into the corner, I lost completely the rear. I can tell what was the cause, what was the reason, but it's a shame. At that point, the car was showing some good progress, and but I'm happy that I'm okay.
Now, there was a report from your team that they were told by CART that you might have had some smoke at the back of the car. Did they have time to tell you that?
No, I think it was too quick. Again, I don't know the reason yet. We will sit down and we will analyze all the data, and we'll find out what happened.
Will we see you back with Penske next year?
I hope so. We are working hard on this, but all the decisions are with Roger.
All right. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you.
Well, a little unpredictable there, as you could tell from Andre's own reaction. We don't know whether Penske will be running two cars. Certainly the word is they'll only be running one car. Presumably there's still prospects. If, for example, Ribeiro could raise a budget from another direction from the normal sponsor, then perhaps there'd still be a chance to run two cars.
Very much so, Ben. There's no question that Penske Racing would prefer to run two cars next year, even if Marlboro, as expected, cuts back to just the one car for Al Unser Jr. There is no doubt that the team much prefer to run two. They get much more data that way. They can share the load in testing and everything else, and really make full use of that tremendous facilities they have amongst the whole Penske Racing organization.
Just looking on down through the field summary. Now, one or two of those drivers have been into the pits.
That's right. A lot of them took advantage, or a handful or so took advantage to come in and top up with fuel. With the most significant, perhaps, was Richie Hearn, who came in. He had been running ninth before that caution. You might remember a couple of races earlier this year, notably in Rio de Janeiro, he pulled a similar strategy, and when everybody else comes into their pits for their first scheduled stop in another 15 or so laps, he will be able to stay out for another 10 or 12 laps, and that could play out to his favour if there was another caution. Max Papis also came in a couple of laps ago, and Vincenzo Sospiri actually has been in twice.
Right, well, maybe problems for Suspiria. It seems strange he would have been in twice already. But we've got just one lap to go to green now, so the driver's beginning to think about getting back up to pace here. Of course, this is a long race, 500 miles, and we're expecting to see as many as 6 or 7 regular pit stops throughout the course of it. Alex Zanardi there, down in behind JJ Leto, running in 15th position. And up front, it's Alex Zanardi's teammate, Jimmy Vasser, leading Michael Andretti. Pace car light is out now. It's up to Jimmy to dictate the pace from this point onwards. He doesn't have to wait for the pace car to go in. He can just go for it whenever he feels like it.
But he's slowed that pace right down on the back straightaway there, and he's going to try and get a jump on Michael Andretti and pull clear before he gets to the green flag. But it's certainly surprising perhaps that he's slowed the field down quite that much. We can look out of our booth here in turn 4. We see the pace car pulling off, and at the same time Jimmy Vasser gets on the throttle to lead them. It gets a good jump on Michael Andretti through turns 3 and 4, getting ready for the restart. Lap 17 in the books.
And the green flag waves as they come across start-finish line then. Vasser leading, Andretti in 2nd place. De Ferran very close behind Andretti in 3rd position. Interesting to see 2 Goodyear tired cars up there, although Gilles lost a little bit through turns 1 and 2. Wasn't quite as quick as Michael Andretti, and that just opened the gap up a fraction again. Remember, Goodyear have had 1 win only this year, and that was courtesy of Michael Andretti, the black car here in the opening race of the season at Homestead.
And look how Andretti closed in there on the back straight. He took advantage of the draft and pulled right onto the tail of Jimmy Vasser. But you know, this racetrack is very similar to Michigan Speedway, but it's not quite so wide. The racing groove is not quite so wide. There's a little bit less banking here. That doesn't give the cars quite as much grip through the corners, and it's more difficult here to run side by side than it is at Michigan Speedway.
Remember, this place was a brand new facility last year. It was actually 13 months ago, because the race this year being run a month later due to the extra races added to the calendar, and so a little bit different conditions. It's cooler certainly than it was last year. Last year was a blazing hot day, and that's part of the reason that perhaps that Michael Andretti had his overheating troubles. And of course, extra heat puts extra strain on the engines and on the transmissions. Today it's pleasant temperatures. It's around mid-70 degrees Fahrenheit, a pleasant day, but certainly not too hot, and that hopefully will help the reliability factor for all of the teams. Up front at the moment, Jimmy Vasser, and that draft not really working quite so well for Andretti, unless perhaps he's just content to sit in 2nd position. De Ferran still sitting in 3rd place, then Scott Pruitt in 4th, Guterman in 5th, Dario Franchitti is in 6th place, Bobby Rahal 7th, then Greg Moore 8th, Paul Tracy 9th, and Mark Blundell rounding out the top 10 so far. And Zanardi still a long way down the field. He's down in 15th position, and he lies some 9 seconds behind his teammate who leads so far. So the main thing that those drivers further back down the field have to be aware of is staying on the lead lap.
That's right. They won't be too concerned at the moment about ultimate track position or even the speed they're going. They can just stick there in the draft, go with the flow, so to speak. It's a long way to go. 250 laps. That takes a lot out of the car, the engine, and the driver. You don't want to push too hard too soon.
Scott Pruitt there, just running in 4th place, being perhaps just a little conservative at this stage. There's no point in going completely flat out, hell for leather. Looking there at Bobby Rahal, and Bobby still running in the early stages and running in a good 7th place. He was delighted with the qualifying effort yesterday to qualify in 5th position again.
He'll take us to the front.
Showing that he's competitive. And we're just tuned into the radio, so now and then we will hear comments either from Bobby or from his crew chief as we go through this race. So listen out for those. We'll try and stop talking so we can hear exactly the communication that's going on with Bobby in this, his last outing as a driver. Back to the leaders though, and there is Jimmy Vasser with Michael Andretti in close attendance. Only 0.2 of a second between them as they crossed the line last time. Across the line they go again, and much the same gap between the two. Andretti still chasing.
And running a very consistent pace, just around about 229.5 miles an hour. 31.8, 31.9, the last 5 laps since they went green, all just about exactly the same pace. That is deemed a comfortable pace by Jimmy Vasser. It looks very comfortable also for Michael Andretti, tucked in there in 2nd place, in that slipstream, getting a little bit better fuel consumption as well.
Just hearing a report that JJ Leto's car is sounding a little rough out there. Oh, and Andretti now going for it, gets a great toe, picks up the toe and goes through into the lead. So Michael Andretti passes Jimmy Vasser, and that looked all very easy. I wonder now if Jimmy can do the same back at him. These two certainly dominating the early stages, with a long way to go. Gilles de Ferran in third place, Scott Pruitt still there in fourth. There is Gilles de Ferran just in that same picture, so he wants to join in on this game. And Michael Andretti, I mentioned on the Goodyear tyres, had a great test here just before they went off to Australia, which meant that they're feeling much more confident coming into this race than perhaps they were earlier in the season.
Yeah, it's a very good test indeed. And Goodyear certainly this year, I think it's fair to say, they've struggled to match the tyres that Firestone have produced on a consistent basis. In actual fact, the only win for Goodyear this year was in the season opener at Homestead. Firestone has won 17 races in a row, and Goodyear really wants to set the record straight here this afternoon.
On the other hand, of course, a couple of occasions, Jeremy, this year that Michael could have won races if things hadn't gone wrong for him and for the team. Motegi was a good example where he had a very comfortable lead. Nazareth, another oval track where he seemed to be in a great shape until he spun on one of the restarts. So it's not being quite as clear-cut as perhaps the statistics show.
Absolutely right, and certainly this year Goodyear has worked extremely hard. Their entire engineering team has worked hard. They have caught up with Firestone, there is no doubt about that, but there is also no doubt that they do need to do some more work to be up with Firestone all the time. But here we are with 26 laps into the race now, 27 as they go across start-finish line one more time, and Goodyear tyres first, and they're in third place with Gilles de Ferran.
I mentioned we are likely to see 6 or 7, perhaps even as many as 8 pit stops throughout the course of this race. We're not expecting the first pit stop for about another 7 or 8 laps. We're thinking around lap 35, that sort of point. It will depend on yellows, and in fact it will go beyond that because we've had so many yellow flag laps in the early stages of the race. Coming around to complete lap number 28 this time, and looking back at Greg Moore. He's just at the back of the picture there. He's in 6th place, so Greg's moved up a few places from his starting position of 9th, behind Dario Franchitti at the moment. In fact, there's the view from Scott Pruitt.
And there is Franchitti, gets a great toe there as he ducks to the inside, and both of those two actually just got past Mauricio Gugelmin. There you just saw that Franchitti was able to make the pass on Scott Pruitt, and here now also comes Greg Moore to the inside of the pole sitter.
Franchitti and Moore, the two men who have really dominated in terms of pole positions this year. Dario Franchitti scored 5 pole positions, Greg Moore 4 pole positions, and yesterday there was the award to the pole position setters of the year. They all had a chance to win a Mercedes road car. They were each given keys according to how many pole positions they've earned throughout the year. So Dario Franchitti had 5 keys, Greg Moore had 4 keys, and if any one of those keys turned the engine on that Mercedes, then it was theirs to drive away. But it wasn't either of those two that won the Mercedes. It was, in fact, the man who won it last year, Brian Herter. It was his key that fitted.
It was indeed, and a big thrill for Brian Herter and his whole family there. Now 2 Mercedes to play with. Jeanette, his wife, has got to be pleased with that.
Yes, use them on alternate days, perhaps. Brian Herter running a little further down the field at the moment. Let's just check through the order. Where is he? Down in 18th position. So there's his teammate, Bobby Rahal. He's running up there in 8th place, and Brian Herter at the moment down in 18th position. But that's not really anything too significant at this stage. Keep an eye on car number 2, by the way. There's a report of smoke from the back of that car.
And there is Rahal looking to pass Scott Pruitt, and meanwhile Alonso Jr. in front of us. He pulls down off the racetrack and into the pit lane. We heard a report of smoke. Couldn't see the smoke as he pulled past here. We couldn't tell whether the car was under power or not, but he pulls in front into his pit as Rahal again tries once more time to get past Pruitt. In the meantime, the leaders are amongst the tail enders now.
Yes, it looks as though Rahal was being a little careful in these early stages. There is Alonso Jr., the number 2 car in the pits, with that report of smoke. I don't think Penske are going to take any risks, having seen what happened to Andre Ribeiro. They'd heard a report of smoke from that car. The next thing they knew, it was heavily into the wall at turn 3. And I don't think they're going to take any gambles here. They want to check that car over thoroughly before they allow Alonso Jr. back onto the track. But what a disappointment this is, once again, for Al Jr. and for Penske. They really have had a tough time this season. The new car, lots of promise, plenty of promise. It looks superb, but that promise just hasn't been converted into performance in terms of race results. They've had some good performances in qualifying, they've had some quick times in races, but it just hasn't come through in terms of results, and reliability really has been their bugbear.
That's very true. Here we are, on board with Michael Andretti. There is Greg Moore. Greg Moore is on the move. He's moved in the last 3 or 4 laps up from 7th place into 3rd position. Just Michael Andretti and Jimmy Vasser behind him. This time around, 34 laps, 2.7 seconds. Greg Moore is behind Michael Andretti.
So Moore is on the move as he tries to chase down Jimmy Vasser with Michael Andretti. And coming out of the pits, Alain Jr. has got going again. They have decided that that car's all right, and they're sending him back out onto the track. So let's hope that Alain Jr.'s car is going to survive throughout the course of the afternoon. Very early stages once again. There he is. That's the view of Alain Jr. exiting the pit lane here. Stays down beneath the apron until he's up to speed. Once he gets onto the backstretch, accelerates hard, and then up to turn 3 he can start to move on to racing line. Look at Greg Moore. Now he's right behind Jimmy Vasser, and he just blasts past him on the inside.
No, he's not. There he goes cleanly through into turn 3. Greg Moore, the fastest man on the track at the moment by quite a long way. Last time around, unbelievable, 31.1. That was quicker than the pole. That was 235 miles an hour as he flies past Alain Jr. Who, look at the smoke. There goes the engine. There goes the engine on Alain Jr.'s car. He's pulling down to the inside, and both Penske's are out of this race. It will not be number 100 for Roger Penske this afternoon.
No, it won't, and they're the first 2 retirements out of the race, and what a great disappointment. They've been working so hard on getting the reliability good on this car, and for whatever reason, whether it's gearbox related, which has certainly been their downfall on many occasions this year, or whether it's engine related, we can't tell from our vantage point here, just looking at smoke coming out of the back of the car. Perhaps we'll get a chance to know more from Alain Jr. once he gets out of the car, but it is the end of the day for him and the end of the 1998 season for Penske. Back to Greg Moore though, the Canadian, who one stage earlier this year was connected into Penske in terms of perhaps talking about driving for them. Nothing came of that. He stays with Forsyth Racing for next year, and certainly has to start as championship contender for next season as he was this year. Battled with Zanardi in the early part of the year, and it looked as though Greg Moore was really going to give Alex Zanardi a tough time all the way through the season, but from middle of the season onwards didn't really go their way, and yet look at this, the performance he's putting in this afternoon. Now he's really beginning to close up on Michael Andretti for the lead of this race.
And there is Greg Moore. He is absolutely fine. That is the lap car of Arndt Meyer. God, look at the speed differential there. Arndt Meyer kept out of the way, and Moore just flies past him. And there is the gap between first and second. We are on board again with Michael Andretti. 39 laps in the books this time around. You can hear just a little ease of the throttle there going to turn 1. And just off the corner of the rear wing behind him is Greg Moore. They go past also Michel Jourdain Jr.'s car.
Yes, dealing with traffic, of course, a major part of this, as Michael Andretti tries to keep an eye on his mirrors. Michael was talking earlier on this weekend about the difficulties, the new challenge of driving with this Hanford wing, this rear wing, which creates more drag, less downforce, encourages more overtaking. And Michael really aware and talking about the fact that drivers have to look after each other. Michael
he's right behind you.
has been told that he may have to come into the pits this time, and look how close they are. Michael got a little held up there.
You can hear Ed Nathman there saying he's right behind you. I think Michael Andretti knows that. They duck to the inside there of Alex Barron, and in the middle, oh dear, Greg Moore just gets out of it in time. There is Barron on the outside and Moore on the inside, and Michael Andretti is coming into the pit lane and almost causes an accident. He doesn't, as he does so, but smart move there by Greg Moore. He saw it coming, ducked down the throttle a little bit, tucked in behind Barron, and all is well.
Lap number 41 then, the first of the lead pit stops as Michael Andretti heads down to the Newman Haas pit. So far, the car seems to be handling extremely well. I doubt they'll make any changes, but let's see if we can listen in on Ed Nathman and Michael Andretti as they make the stop here.
No adjustments, reset the fuel.
Well, there was the word from Ed Nathman. No adjustments. They are happy with the handling of the car. Just fuel. Now wait for the go.
Here, hold it. Watch Tim. Go.
And Michael Andretti is sent on his way after stopping for 12.1 seconds, also into the pit. The man who was in second position after Andretti came in, Jimmy Vasser, and he heads down the pit lane at what seems like a pedestrian 60 miles per hour. Long pit lane here. That Fontana takes a long time at 60 miles an hour to make it down, and finally he gets there, and the team go to work. Now then, keep an eye on the clock, 12.1 seconds. Meanwhile, Greg Moore is also coming into the pits, and it looks as though Zanardi's crew also getting ready for the Italian to come in. Zanardi at the moment is being shown in 11th place, but one or two people have stopped already, as Greg Moore now makes his way into the pits. Another vital stop for him. Clean, smooth, no dramas, no fuss, waiting for the fuel. It's the fuel that takes the time. A little bit slow getting it actually moving, but a 12-second stop, a tenth of a second faster than Michael Andretti. Comes out of the pit lane. Now he can release the speed button and begin to accelerate as he gets onto the apron and build up the speed. Top speeds here today with the benefit of a tow, over 240 miles an hour on the straight bits. And there aren't many straight bits here. The front stretch is a gentle curve all the way between turn 4 and 1. It's really just a back stretch that is dead straight, where they can perhaps relax a little bit, as much as you can relax when you're doing 240 miles an hour. There's Greg Moore having rejoined. Our leader at the moment, who hasn't stopped yet, is Maurizio Gugelmin. Gugelmin leads, although he's just coming in right now. Blundell is also coming into the pits. He was being shown in second place. So Patrick Carpentier is the other one, and then he comes in. So all of the leaders now making one pit stop.
That's right, and they are pit lane. Everything seems to be running smoothly. There is Greg Moore. We're looking at Greg Moore, and he is ahead of Michael Andretti as a result of those pit stops. And here is our new leader. He will take the lead when he comes. Well, actually, he won't, because Richie Hearn is still out on the racetrack.
Richie Hearn stopped early, remember, and he was in a competitive 8th position when he made that early stop. So Richie Hearn will be leading this race. Had an extremely good run at the other superspeedway in Michigan earlier this year, and now he'll be out in front and on a different strategy to everybody else. So that will pan out as we go through the course of the afternoon. With Greg Moore, though, the leader of the next little gaggle, if you like, once everybody else's pit stops have been taken into account. Helio Castroneves is the other one who's on a slightly different strategy. He's actually made 2 pit stops already in this race.
Yeah, he made those both under that early yellow, so he will be able to maintain that speed, and if another yellow were to come out now, he'd be in good shape.
Greg Moore has all the fastest laps in this race so far. Look at that list. Moore. Then Andretti, and then Franchitti. Franchitti putting in some good laps so far. He lies in 7th position as we have completed 47 laps, and we're coming up to 1/5 distance. It's a long race, this one, and Greg Moore's got to be patient as he's in great shape. It's Richie Hearn, though, who leads. Up front it is Richie Hearn. Richie Hearn leading by just 10 seconds at the moment. I say just 10 seconds, that sounds pretty good, but it looks as though Richie could be heading into the pits this time. He was on a different strategy, remember. He stopped under yellow conditions early on in this race, but he has already got to make his pit stop. So he now moves down the order. Greg Moore will re-inherit the lead. Sliding to a stop there in the pit lane. Very, very slippery. That concrete surface, of course, doesn't see much running on it, apart from when the cars come in and out of the pits in practice. And you can see, even at that slow speed, he locked up the front. That's something the crews have to be very wary of. Race leader then, Greg Moore, 52 laps in the books now, and there he is putting a lap on Alex Zanardi. Now that's a big story, because Zanardi now a lap down. It's going to be very difficult to come back from there, and Zanardi not having such a good end to his career, at least for the moment, in the United States, as he finds himself down in 17th position, but he's just gone a lap down to Greg Moore.
The gap between Greg Moore and in second place Michael Andretti, 1.5 seconds. There is Michael Andretti, goes past one of the All-American Racers car, down on the apron there on the infield, coming into the pits, and Michael Andretti, as he goes there into turn 3, now out into turn 4, he move up towards the wall on the exit of the turn, and here he comes. He's about just over a second or so behind Greg Moore. Actually, it's stretched out on that lap, 2.6. Greg Moore is absolutely flying. 54 laps in the book, so just over 1/5 of the way through. A long, long, long way to go. 31.4 last time around. That's in excess of 232 miles an hour. And look at Moore there, not trying to make it 3 abreast. That's Brian Herter and Tony Kanaan right ahead of him.
Yeah, they're battling for 12th position. They're having their own little tussle, and Greg Moore, the race leader, coming up behind them, trying to get past them at the same time. Kanaan now moves to the outside. Moore looking for some route. He doesn't quite know where to go, to try and go through the middle or on the inside, as these two have a tremendous battle for 12th position. But Greg Moore just wants to be careful here. He doesn't want to get into any sort of trouble, and the problem there was he lost the slipstream for a moment. Now he goes for it again on the inside, up into turn 3. Giving each other plenty of room, but Moore still there now. He should get the run out of turn number 4 as they come across start-finish line, and Tony Kanaan slots in right behind him again, so that he can perhaps pick up a bit of speed on this lap. Also in there, Robbie Gordon in the Archero Wells car. Tony Kanaan was fastest in the morning warm-up. Doesn't seem to have been able to repeat that as yet in the race, but you never know. Things can change in the course of a long-distance race like this one.
That's true, and of course Tony Kanaan had very few laps in practice and qualifying, and a massive engine failure on Friday. He's actually sawed the gearbox in half as well on his primary car, so he had to switch to the backup, and then after just 4 laps on Saturday morning, another engine failure in the secondary car. So he got very few laps before qualifying. They did get the car dialed in pretty well this morning, but not quite on the pace there. And we look at Greg Moore there for that aerial shot, and that is Brian Herter, who is about to slingshot past. Actually, Herter there, as I say, that pulls to the inside to go past one of the slower cars, and Moore is obliged to tuck in behind him.
Yes, that's right, and it's all a bit tight as he goes through turns 3 and 4, and it's Alex Barron that he's going past. There is enough room, but Moore is shaking his fist at him. He's not impressed at all, in fact, of being squeezed there by the eagle of Alex Barron. And again, Barron is not really making it clear as to where he's going, and Michael Andretti's being given a chance to close right up.
Yeah, he's close right up behind him, and there is Michael Andretti. He has the slipstream. Moore tucks out. He tries to go past Alex Barron, and there goes Andretti down the inside, 3 abreast.
Wow, look at that. That was real racecraft from Michael Andretti, taking advantage of the fact that Moore had got himself held up behind Alex Barron, and now we have a new leader again. Michael Andretti goes ahead once more, and Greg Moore still can't find a way past Alex Barron, and it looks as though he's not sure quite whether to trust him or not. Now he goes round him, round the outside into turn 1 and 2, and Moore can now settle back and try and chase after Michael Andretti. Moore was absolutely flying there, leading up to getting behind Alex Barron, but it just shows you, if you just time it wrong, you can get caught out by the guy coming up behind. Andretti picked up the double toe and just shot past them as if they were standing still.
It's amazing, wasn't it? And certainly, there's no question that Toyota is making big progress in terms of horsepower. They're not quite there with the race leaders, perhaps, in ultimate power, but they're not far behind. And I think Greg Moore will attest to that. He spent 2 or 3 laps trying to get past the Eagle Toyota there. It's a good little car, that Eagle chassis. And still there, Brian Herter now is just ahead of Michael Andretti. And Herter is now really under pressure. He's been fighting hard to stay on the lead lap. He is in 12th place, but this is Michael Andretti. We are with Michael. You can see up on the high side there is Greg Moore behind him, and now finally Andretti puts Herter 1 lap down.
Look at Moore though, he's got a great run and he's got a chance to go back in front. He goes on the outside, picks up a great toe from Herter, round the outside of turns 1 and 2, and it looks as though Greg Moore's going to go ahead again. Yes, he does, and that was good stuff, but Michael hasn't given up yet. Now he has the opportunity to go back inside into turn number 3, and these two putting on a tremendous display for the packed grandstands, enjoying the sunshine here in California and celebrating what is a tremendous tussle between Michael Andretti and Greg Moore on lap number 63. Jimmy Vasser is still in 3rd. Meanwhile, Dario Franchitti has moved up the order. Franchitti is now in 4th position, so he's gained a bit of ground. In fact, no, 3rd. He's just gone past Jimmy Vasser. So Franchitti making up ground, and this is a good drive on a super speedway, the sort of track that Franchitti, by his own admission, is not quite so comfortable with. The ovals is still, doesn't feel as though he's got them completely sorted out. I don't know if anybody ever completely sorts them out, but he's up to 3rd place. Andretti is race leader, Greg Moore is in 2nd. 27 laps have been completed. Michael Andretti is still race leader. Greg Moore second. Those two pulling away at a huge margin from Dario Franchitti, who's 12 seconds behind Andretti. Then it's Vassar, Gugelmin, Tracy, and the man here, Bobby Rahal, still running competitively in this, his last outing as driver in the series.
Very competitively. Car number 7 in 7th position. Right behind him is Mark Blundell, having one of his best drives of the season. And there they fly past, I think that was Max Papis' MCI car, and the Lola of Arndt Meyer. So down low into turn 3 goes Bobby Rahal, really running nicely this afternoon.
Yes, using all the experience that he's gained in 17 years of competition at this level. And, well, a very popular driver, as we saw earlier on in the programme, the way that he was celebrated this morning after the warm-up. Tremendous sight, everybody joining in, giving him a bit of a tease, but also giving him a great deal of applause. And Bobby Rahal will be sadly missed as driver, but of course he'll still be around running the team, and Max Papis will replace him in that number 7 car next year. So that'll be an interesting challenge for the Italian. He's shown well in his couple of years over here with the Arciero Wells team, and Papis will now have the chance with one of the top teams. They took their first victory a few races ago at Laguna Seca with Brian Herter, but surely they're capable of many, many more race wins, and Max Papis will be hoping perhaps to pick up from Alex Zanardi as the top Italian in the championship. There's the gap though. Rahal is some 20 seconds behind race leader Michael Andretti at this stage in the race. Andretti and Moore still battling, but Franchitti in 3rd place, although Franchitti 13 seconds behind Greg Moore, so there's a big, big gap there. Now then, look at this. Greg Moore looks as though he was just playing the game patiently. He's decided to go past again. Michael down low, though, coming into the pits. Now, this is interesting. Why would Michael be coming in this early? It's only about 30 laps since he last came in.
Yeah, that's
no
slightly
adjustments, just 4 tires and fuel.
4 tires and fuel, so there's Ed Nathman there, the team manager. But certainly slightly earlier for Michael Andretti. He's been running pretty consistently there. 31.9, 32.0 last couple of laps around. And I'm certainly slightly surprised he would come in this soon.
Well, into the pits.
Reset the fuel meter, Michael. Reset the fuel meter.
Being asked to reset the fuel meter.
Get all the fuel in there, guys.
Yeah, it could be that either they didn't get all the fuel in last time, or maybe he didn't reset the fuel meter, so they didn't get a proper read on fuel consumption first time around. They've already run him out of fuel once this year. That happened to Motegi in Japan. That cost him a potential race win there. So better err on the side of safety here. Bring him in a couple of laps early. As long as there isn't a caution now, that won't hurt him too badly. But almost certainly he will have lost a lap by making that pit stop. And into the lead goes Greg Moore.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with your assessment that they were perhaps being careful, because the pit stop took 10.8 seconds. It was a shorter stop. It didn't need quite so much fuel, perhaps, or perhaps they didn't know quite how much had gone in that first stop. I think that was the problem. We're hearing from the pit lane they weren't quite sure whether the full amount had gone in on the first stop, and that's why they brought him in a little bit early.
Yeah, they say 4 gallons short from what he really needed on that first stop, so that would explain why he erred on the side of safety this time around. He came in probably 5 or 6 laps earlier than he needed to. 1.8 miles to the gallon you have to get. It's the fuel consumption you get. You're probably getting closer to 2 miles on this racetrack in actual fact. So 35 laps or so would be about right for Michael Andretti. He comes in after 30. That's fair enough. And as I say, as long as there isn't a caution, he'll be fine.
Greg Moore then is fairly comfortable race leader now, with Dario Franchitti having moved up into 2nd place. There's Tony Kanaan coming out of the pits in the inset. Kanaan running further down the order though, and
he was running actually in 14th place right before that. He was behind Robbie Gordon, who's having a very good run for Arciero Wells Racing. But look at that big knot of cars there, and around the outside goes Greg Moore across the line. That is lap 75, but boy, that was awfully tight.
It was pretty close, but Moore has a comfortable advantage over Dario Franchitti, although Franchitti is into the pits apparently. So Franchitti choosing this time to make his pit stop. There he is. We can see him just coming past our position here to make his way into the pit lane as Greg Moore continues round and overtakes Helio Castro Neves. There is Franchitti. It looks as though Patrick Carpentier, meanwhile, has had various problems. He was in the pits earlier. They had the engine cover off, and he's been back into the pits again. So the other Forsyth car, teammate to Greg Moore, Patrick Carpentier, not having a very good day today. Carpentier was last year's Rookie of the Year. He beat this man, Franchitti, to the Rookie of the Year title. There's no doubt which of them has had the better 1998 season. Franchitti battling for 2nd place in the championship here, remember. And 2nd place he holds after the last race in Surfers Paradise. He's got to do well in relation to Jimmy Vasser here today to make sure he holds on to second place in the series.
12.9 seconds there for Dario Fricking. It's a little bit longer than you would think. Around about 12 seconds is the norm for these cars, so I didn't see whether there was a problem there on the switchover. But here we are again on board now with Bobby Rahal, and still right behind Bobby is last year's winner here, Mark Blundell. Looky there on the inside, side by side, and through, taking the position is Mark Blundell.
So he moves up into 5th place, and this is a more competitive showing from both Pac West cars. We've got Maurizio Guterman in 4th position, Mark Blundell up to 5th, but look, no, Bobby perhaps coming back at him, decides against it then in the end. He seemed to have a bit of a run, then decided to lift off. See, Bobby's being very patient out there. He's not really trying that hard in these early stages.
4.
Pit calls being brought again, and perhaps Bobby due to come in fairly soon. Scott Pruitt in behind Bobby Rahal. He was the pole sitter, remember. 1 or 2 other cars coming into the pits. Jimmy Vasser is in, as Scott Pruitt now gets a chance to pick up the tow and take that 5th position from Bobby Rahal. Straightforward pass into turn number 1.
Some good racing going on down here all the way through the field, and there is, here now though, is Jimmy Vasser, the 2nd place car into the pits.
Yes, important stop as Greg Moore is out there still, hasn't come in for his 2nd pit stop. Michael Andretti was the first to make that 2nd pit stop, remember. Now we're seeing the other leaders come in, no yellow flags to help them, and away goes Jimmy Vasser once again. Now there's a whole number of them coming in. I've seen Tracy come in, but Pruitt's come into Ferran also into the pits. A whole gaggle of cars. There is Paul Tracy making his way down to the Team Green pit. Disappointing season for Paul Tracy, and their race leader, Greg Moore, into the pits as well now. Slides in a little bit as he comes in. He's got to be so careful on this concrete. It's so dusty and very easy to make a mistake and slide out of shape coming in. The fuel goes in. Wait until all of the fuel is in. 12, 13 seconds before he actually gets going again. But that won't make too much difference at this point. He had a healthy lead coming into the pits, and once it's all settled down again, except for those on a different strategy, Moore should be ahead of his main rivals. Here's a replay. Just watch this, little bit slippery coming in. You can see he's coming in fairly quickly, locks up the left front, and the back end slides around a little bit. His pit crew member there just sneaking out of the way, and everybody getting into position safely. But it is tricky down there.
It is, because he won't worry about the lock-up on that left front wheel, because they're changing the tyres in any case. But here there is a battle for the lead. That's the Pac West duo, and Gugelmin did hold the lead, but no longer. There goes Mark Blundell.
Well, here's something. Mark Blundell leads a race in 1998. We thought we weren't going to see that after they've struggled throughout the season. But Blundell, who won here last year, he snatched the lead with 10 laps to go from Jimmy Vasser when Greg Moore's engine blew up. They thought there was going to be a yellow flag. Well, at least Jimmy Vasser thought there was. He backed off a fraction, and that allowed Blundell to take the initiative and come through to take his 3rd win of the season. Blundell up ahead again with Maurizio Guterman, his teammate, right behind. They're due to have the new Reynard delivered pretty much this week. In fact, there goes Guterman. It looks to me as though Mark's slowing to come into the pits. Yes, he is. There's another car coming in just ahead of him. They've left Guterman out there for at least 1 more lap, hoping that he'll make it round safely, and then for him to come in to make his pit stop. Pretty rapid lap from that last lap, 31.7 from Blundell, because he picked up a bit of a tow on that case. Alex Zanardi also in the pits at the moment. Alex still struggling. Remember, he's a lap down on race leader. Well, he was a lap down on Greg Moore.
Yeah, before this round of pit stops, he was actually running in 16th place behind Christian Fittipaldi.
So Zanardi not having a particularly good run here this afternoon, but hopefully the car may improve. Of course, they will make little changes to the car. They will change tyre pressures with the different sets of tyres, etc., throughout the course of the day to try and help to improve the handling of the car. Looking there at Arndt Meyer, the German driver in the Lola chassis. He's in 23rd place at the moment. The only Lola out there, but by the sound of things, he won't be the only Lola out there next year. Of course, if Arndt makes a return in the 1999 season. But we're looking at 3 teams already signed up to Lola, and perhaps another team also signing up for Lola next year. Into the pits then comes race leader Maurizio Gugelmin. Gugelmin, the last of the leaders to make his pit stop. This will put Greg Moore out in front again.
And Mark Moore and crew there. Mark Moore may be a name that some fans will remember. He raced in the Formula Atlantic Series pretty successfully in the 80s. Great stop there by the Pac West team, and there goes Maurizio Gugelmin. He will lose the lead. Greg Moore is back into the lead, but a great stop by that crew, and he will remain on the lead lap.
Well, after that round of pit stops, Greg Moore finds himself in front again. Michael Andretti, who made the earlier stop, is 8 seconds behind. Dario Franchitti is also well up in third. German racer stands beside his stricken Lola. The Ford engine has expired in a cloud of smoke and flame as he went over the start-finish line. And Meyer out of this race. There you are, replay. Look at the fire coming out of the back. That was very impressive, actually. I think a 10 out of 10 for that one. Very good from Art Meyer. Unfortunately, end of race for him, and that puts the only Lola out of the race. We were just talking about that a little earlier on, how they're expecting more cars out next year, but that's the end of their campaign for this year, sadly. And engine failures, of course, always a part of 500-mile racing. They've only completed 89 laps so far. There's still 161 to go. You can expect to see more engine failures as we go throughout the course of this afternoon. Let me remind you the situation before everything went wrong for Arndt Meyer, that Greg Moore is race leader. Michael Andretti is now given the chance to close up behind Greg Moore, although there are some lapped cars between them. Dario Franchitti third, Jimmy Vasser fourth, Paul Tracy fifth. Maurizio Gugelmin 6th, Richie Hearn is 7th, Mark Blundell in 8th place, then Scott Pruitt is 9th and Bobby Rahal 10th, and the last two in points scoring positions at this early stage are Helio Castroneves and Gilles de Ferran. Michael Andretti just settling back under this yellow flag. No point really in making a pit stop. They recently made pit stops. Perhaps we'll see one or two making strategic stops in a while. Well, Michael Andretti still in second position. This has allowed him to close up that what was just under 9 seconds between himself and Greg Moore. But well, it will depend a little bit on how many lapped cars are up between them as well. Greg Moore's just been flying, hasn't he? The last few laps, he's been setting some very rapid times.
That's right. Really circulating quickly. Look at that crowd again here. Just a massive crowd on hand at California Speedway. Beautiful weather conditions. Actually, it was a little bit clearer this morning, but a bit of a haze come in this afternoon. We can't see the San Bernardino Mountains. They're only a few miles away here to the north, but great crowd here, great atmosphere, beautiful weather. Not too hot, just perfect weather conditions.
Well, it's great to see such a big crowd. There's a chance for one member of the crowd, or indeed of the viewers watching on TV in the States, to win $1 million with a scratch card scheme that's been set up for this race. We're just taking a look here again at Arndt Meyer's spectacular engine blow-up. And if you're going to blow an engine up, then that's the way to do it. But poor old Meyer puts him out of the race. Just coming back to the scratch card thing, though, here in the States, they've set up a competition, basically, and if you get one of these scratch cards, and all the people who've bought tickets for today's race certainly get them, and they could buy them at Kmart stores around the country. If they scratch away the symbols that are shown up throughout the broadcast here on ESPN, then they've got a chance of winning $1 million. Perhaps that's part of the reason we've seen such a huge crowd turn up today. Michael Andretti into the pits, our second place man, taking advantage of this caution period to come in. Interesting decision, that.
Well, yeah, but you know, because he was slightly out of sequence, having not taken on that full amount of fuel on the first stop, he made his second stop rather earlier than most of the other contenders. He came in on lap 71 and Moore on lap 80, so he needed to top up that fuel level.
So Michael Andretti taking advantage of the yellows here. Lap number 91 now, the yellow flag still flying after the engine of Arndt Meyer blew up, and Michael Andretti has just been into the pits then, trying to take advantage of this caution period. Looks as though he's the only one of the drivers on the lead lap, but we now have a few drivers who are a lap or more down also deciding to come into the pits at this point. So strategy playing a game here, of course, as ever. Michael will drop down the order from Greg Moore somewhat, but it could help his cause later on in the race. Tony Kanaan is down there at the bottom of the picture. He's one of the ones in. I saw Helio Castroneves come in. Of course, these two great friends, great rivals from the Indy Lights last year and into Champ Cars this year. Tony Kanaan, though, is the winner of the Rookie of the Year title, remember, after a tremendous run of results in the latter part of the season. Really has been a consistent front runner. Good to see. Also in the pits there, Alex Zanardi decided to take advantage of this caution period. Alex not having a great day today. He's been running outside the top 15 for much of it. But remember, this is his last race for the moment, at least in Champ Car racing, before he goes off to race with Williams in Formula One in the World Championship. Racing here for the last time. It'll be a shame to lose him. Let's take a look at Alex Zanardi. In 3 years of racing in the States, Alex Zanardi has posted some very impressive statistics. His performances have excited viewers and spectators the world over. But which race would he pick out as truly special?
Long Beach. I mean, would be either the best performance and also the highlight of the season for me. Probably, I would almost say out of the last 3 years, because here, when I passed Brian Herter with 2 laps to go, I thought that I heard people cheering, screaming, but I thought, no, it can't be. But then I go around in the back section where all the grandstands are, and they were really screaming so loud that I could hear it in the car. And I mean, my skin goes funny even now if I think about it.
The teamwork has been a major factor.
A group of mechanics that was fantastic, that in 3 years my car never break once. You know, it was just incredible. To describe my experience here in the States, I would have to say that an adventure. It was going to be an adventure, and it has been a very, very exciting adventure. Going to Formula One, I see it more as a project, as something more calculated and maybe not as funny.
Zanardi the champion, Zanardi the man, will be sorely missed in America. Well, Alex Zanardi's not having one of his better days at the moment. Still a long way to go here as he tries to get a handle on the handling, try and improve it on setup in terms of the tyre pressures, perhaps in terms of changing the aerodynamics. But he's still out there. That's the important thing. The reliability of the team just has been phenomenal, as he mentioned in that report, over the last 3 years. And of course, he has won on the ovals. He's won one 500-mile race. He won the 1997 Michigan race, so he at least has cracked this type of race in the past. He'd love to do it again here today, particularly with $1 million on offer. At the moment, though, it's his teammate Jimmy Vasser who's up in 3rd place, who perhaps is holding better prospect of that for the team. Greg Moore then leads them round under this caution as they've tried to clear up. I think it's pretty much done now. Arndt Meyer's exploded engine has been all cleaned up, and it shouldn't be too much longer, although we hear a report that there is some debris on the track, so it will be for another lap or two as they try and clean up the track. They've obviously picked up some debris somewhere. Looking there at Greg Moore, and there his statistics in 500-mile races: 6 starts, 1 win. That was this year, of course, in Michigan, when he beat Alex Zanardi and Jimmy Vasser in a battle to the line on the last lap. We're going to see them come around for one more lap. The one-finger signal's being given this time around. And looking at back over this race so far, the leader, Greg Moore, at the moment, but we've had 6 different leaders, 13 changes for the lead. Not quite up to the 62 that we saw in Michigan, but still we've got a long way to go in this race yet. And we've had several cautions already. Out of the race, Arndt Meyer, Dennis Vitolo, who was in and out of the pits for ages. Patrick Carpentier also confirmed out of the race. He's been in and out of the pits a lot this afternoon. Alonso Jr. and Andre Ribeiro, both Penske's. If you weren't with us for the start of the show, well, they went out very early on. Ribeiro crashed as a result of some sort of mechanical problem, and then Alonso Jr. went out as a result of an oil leak. Those and Arndt Meyer, the main mechanical retirements, as I say, but also Vitolo and Carpentier out.
So we have just 7 cars on the lead lap now. That is tells you the story of the torrid pace that Greg Moore has set at the front of this field. It's Moore, Franchitti in second place, but there's 7 or 8 cars between those first 2 cars in the overall order. Behind in third place is Vassar, then Tracy, Gugelmin, Andretti, and Hearn, who pulled that strategy early on, is the last car on the lead lap. Mark Blundell, the first of those 1 lap down, as we go back to green flag racing.
So this is the battle between Franchitti and Vassar. These two, of course, challenging for second place in the championship. And Franchitti in second place, Jimmy Vassar in third. They're quite a long way behind Greg Moore. Moore sets off at another fast pace. But Franchitti, impressive so far. He's not as experienced on these super speedways. Only his second year of competition in America, of course. And he raced on them last year, but he didn't race this race last year. He missed the Fontana race after contractual disputes with Carl Hogan, who ran the team that he drove for last year. Saw Dario not racing at this particular event. In fact, Jimmy Vassar looks as though he's just gone past Dario Franchitti there. But Franchitti, nonetheless, in spite of not racing here last year, still proving to be very competitive at the moment and battling with Vassar, who's one of the top drivers on this type of track. There's Greg Moore, and he's coming up behind Mark Blundell in the moment.
Yeah, that's right. Mark Blundell actually snuck ahead of Greg Moore at that restart. So Blundell needs a caution flag. He is out in the front of the field. Well, he was. He was on the lead lap, no longer. There into turn 1 on the inside goes Greg Moore. So Mark Blundell, he's in the same position on the racetrack, 8th position, but he is now 1 lap down again.
Frustrating for Blundell. He's got exactly the same equipment as Greg Moore. The Reynard chassis with the Firestone tyres and Mercedes-Benz power. But he just doesn't have that handling, perhaps the tuning of the car quite as good as Greg Moore at this point in the race. Moore is certainly very tuned into driving the ovals. He loves the oval tracks. He loves driving at this sort of speed and tuning the car. It really is tiny, tiny amounts of tuning. They change the ride height by just a fraction of a millimetre, and it can make all the difference between a good car and a bad car. Here's Scott Pruitt also going past Mark Blundell. Pruitt currently running in 9th. In fact, that moves him up into 8th position now.
Some good dancing going all the way down the field. They come past here 2 abreast. Oh, there's 4 or 5 battles, 2 abreast. They come past us in turn 4. And here is Scott Pruitt there with a big toe on Greg Moore. He's trying to get that lap.
Yeah, trying to get back on the lead lap. This would be impressive, wouldn't it? For the man who set pole position yesterday. And Scott Pruitt really looks in great shape here today as he tries to get back onto the lead lap. Greg Moore seemed to have the pace of everybody. Suddenly he's found somebody who can draft with him, and is staying with him very much as they come out of turns 3 and 4 and head down to cross the line. We've just completed 100 laps. This is lap number 101, and Pruitt goes to the inside, makes it look all too easy, and the Ford-powered machine goes ahead. So Pruitt onto the lead lap, but remember, he's still down in 8th place. He's not the leader of the race, but he is onto the lead lap now.
Yes, he is. He won't be able to pull away, of course, because there goes Mark Blundell looking to the inside of Greg Moore in turn 3. Not enough room there. As we talked about earlier on, there's not quite so much banking here as there is at Michigan Speedway, and it is much more difficult to go 2 abreast into the corners. You have to make your pass coming off the corner or going in early, so to speak. You can't just dive in at the last moment and take advantage of that full amount of the slipstream. But look at his there, a little bit high there goes Gilles de Ferran, but he's amongst his battle and a 1 lap down as well.
Tell you what's interesting though is Dario Franchitti's in there, and he's only 0.6 of a second now behind Greg Moore. Moore doesn't seem to be quite so fast on this stint since that last yellow flag, and Franchitti very much keeping pace with race leader at this stage. So Franchitti second, Jimmy Vassar is not far behind in 3rd place, so 0.4 between Moore and Franchitti, then another 1.5 seconds back to Jimmy Vassar as we ride with Gilles de Ferran here, but Gilles is a lap down, he's in 10th place.
You're right, to Dario Franchitti, there he is 3rd in line, there is Scott Pruitt, there is Greg Moore, there is Dario Franchitti, right behind Greg Moore, and Dario Franchitti, he learned so much in that race at Michigan Speedway earlier this year. He wasn't very comfortable going into the race, the handling wasn't too good for much of it, but he learned a heck of a lot, and well, we be seeing this afternoon how much he learned. He's the hot man in the series. He's won 3 of the last 5 races. He hasn't yet won on a super speedway. Could this be the day, Ben?
Well, long way to go yet, Jeremy, to find out. 146 laps to go in this race, and as we mentioned earlier, reliability, major factor here. But meanwhile, good battle there between Jimmy Vasser and Paul Tracy. Tracy, of course, is Dario Franchitti's teammate, and if anyone is desperate for a good result to finish the season, surely it's the Canadian, Paul Tracy. He's had a torrid time this year. The switch from Penske to Team Green has not worked out as well as it should have done. Barry Green still believes in him, still believes that Paul Tracy can be the man to win races, but Tracy really has got himself involved in far too many incidents this year.
Yes, he has, but he's driving a beautiful race this afternoon. He's been not in the picture too much. He's been hanging back, laying low, keeping a low profile. That's what he needs to do. He's got to be around at the end of 250 laps. It's no good running up at the front early on. It's at the end you need to be running strong. As, by the way, Tony Kanaan comes into the pits, the rookie driver. Another unscheduled stop for the Tasman team.
So Scott Pruitt on board with him at the moment. Pruitt in 8th position. Just looking back at Greg Moore, but of course Pruitt back onto the lead lap. That's the crucial thing. Look at Franchitti though. Franchitti looking to the inside and taking the lead from Greg Moore. Or is he? Moore comes back at him on the outside again. These two absolutely together. And once again the effect of the slipstream. And Franchitti ran very wide there, didn't he? Looked to me as though lost a little bit of front downforce, and that made him run right up to the wall. He's got to play it carefully at this point in the race. Doesn't want to take too many risks, but he had a good run going there, and it was a good chance to go through.
Yeah, that was a wake-up call for Dario Franchitti. He knows now exactly what happens when he gets closer than behind and is not able to make the pass. He tucks him behind now. I think we'll see him stay there for a while.
Yes, perhaps that will be the only attempt for a few laps here as Moore continues to lead. Positions, Franchitti in 2nd, Vasser in 3rd, Paul Tracy in 4th. Stay with us here. Well, Dario Franchitti, as you say, perhaps a little bit concerned once he tried to make that move. Certainly seemed to run very wide indeed up towards the wall. Pruitt hasn't managed to get away any further from Greg Moore, although maintaining that pace out front without the benefit of anyone to tow him around. So it does just show you that Pruitt's car is working extremely well, but now perhaps Moore is beginning to pick up that tow again, and now he will have a chance to slipstream pass either this lap or the next lap.
Yeah, they're both running about the same sort of speed, 31.6. That's just about 231 miles an hour average speed, that is, around this racetrack.
Just 231.
They're doing over 240 on the straightaways here, but on the corners they just scrub off a little bit of speed. They really don't lift out of the throttle much at all, but they just ease off a little bit, turn it into the corner, and 231 miles an hour average speed.
It is phenomenal. As the cars come past our commentary position on the outside of turn 4, you can feel the air move. The wake of these machines at this sort of speed really is very apparent, and nothing like this in European racing. The speeds we see on the super speedways consistently running up at 230, 240 miles per hour. Very, very impressive. And you can just see the crowd are lapping this up at the moment. Greg Moore, our race leader. Look at Tony Kanaan. He's down the field because he's been lapped at least once, if not twice, in fact, by a race leader. He had another pit stop recently, remember, but still able to run at a decent pace now that he's up to speed again. Dario Franchitti looking to slipstream past Tony Kanaan in the background there. Franchitti goes to the inside, and it looks as though Kanaan gave him plenty of space. So Franchitti holds his 2nd position. Greg Moore comes round here to complete lap number 112. Moore from Franchitti, 1.1 seconds the gap as they continue around. Jimmy Vasser is in 3rd place, Paul Tracy there in 4th. That was the battle you were looking at. Here again we're looking at Franchitti just at the bottom of the picture, then in the background. Oh, there's been a blow up, somebody's blown it big time, it's Franchitti, it's Dario Franchitti, I believe. It's not Paul Tracy, I'm pretty sure that was Franchitti.
Right, Ben. There, as you can see, the St Andrews cross on the top of Dario's helmet. Massive massive engine failure there for the cool car. What a shame for Dario Franchitti. A great drive this afternoon.
Oh, how could he expect that? Of course, in this point of the race, we're not even at half distance, and that's, I suppose, just the way it goes. You could see his engineer was on the right of the picture there, Don Halliday. He's established such a good working rapport with Franchitti throughout the course of this year. They really have only good words to say about each other, but on this occasion, the Honda engine has cried enough, and Franchitti has to walk back. Great performance from him today, no doubt that he was in with a chance, but now, of course, second place in the championship will all depend on how Jimmy Vasser finishes in this race, and at the moment, Jimmy Vasser lies in second place.
Absolutely right, and there is Don Halliday, the rest of the crew there, and here's a replay of that blow-up. You can see the smoke there going into turn 3. Does very well to keep control of the car. By now, it's all over. It's just the insides of that engine spilling out there and igniting onto that hot exhaust, and passed in front of us. Here goes Scott Pruitt. Great news for Scott Pruitt, exactly what he needed. Here is Kim Green, general manager.
Prepared for a moment like that. It must be so disappointing, because it looked like you were getting great fuel mileage, good handling, the whole package.
Well, yeah, certainly Dario just radioed in like 2 laps earlier. Hey, guys, the car put a half and a front wing in it for the next stop. No warning on the engine, and certainly unusual for Hondas to let go, but we were in a good position today. A bit disappointing. We wanted to finish this race in a good position and hopefully get second place in the championship. Certainly we have to see what happens to Mr. Vasser now, and the rest of the guys will be sort of rooting for our other driver, Paul Tracy, for the rest of the way.
We'll keep an eye on him. Well, no chance to win $1 million today as the winner of the race. Still $500,000 can be won if he can hang on to second in points.
That's right, the awards dinner being held tomorrow night, and $500,000 on offer to the man who finishes second in the championship. So they'll be watching this race very keenly to see whether Jimmy Vasser is going to take that $500,000 or whether Franchitti is going to keep it for himself. The pits are open now. There is the man we're talking about, Jimmy Vasser, car number 12.
Yeah, he'd been in second place for much of the championship, but that fine run of success by Dario Franchitti had taken him ahead of Jimmy Vasser. The points difference coming into this weekend was 12 points. So in order to regain second position and take home that $500,000, Jimmy will need to finish at least 4th. Actually, he'll need to finish 3rd, because Dario has more wins than does Jimmy Vasser, so he will need to finish 3rd in order to make up that differential. So the pits are open, and here come the race leaders into the pits.
Right, so an important stop this one as they take advantage of the yellow. We're going to see a 3-way split here as we see Greg Moore, Jimmy Vasser and Paul Tracy, the top 3 in the race at the moment, on lap number 115 with 135 still to go. Make this pit stop. Greg Moore, the leader, coming in. Remember, there's Moore already stopped at the top of the screen. Jimmy Vasser is in the middle of your screen, and Paul Tracy is down at the bottom. 11.4 seconds for Greg Moore. That was a good one. Let's see if the other 2 teams can match or better that. Remember, they are further down the pit lane, particularly Jimmy Vasser. 10.8, slight advantage. Now that might give him the chance. No, it doesn't. Moore has got out ahead of Jimmy Vasser. And Paul Tracy also away now, but it looks as though Michael Andretti may have gained a bit.
Yeah, it looks like he snuck out ahead of Paul Tracy there, so great effort by the Newman Haas team, Ray Sorensen and the crew. They're getting Michael out into what looks like 3rd place. Yeah, he had been running 4th. The order as they came into the pits was Moore, Vasser, Tracy, Andretti, Gugelmin, Hearn and Scott Pruitt, who of course had just regained the lead lap.
Yeah, that was a vital time to do that, wasn't it, for Scott Pruitt? It's Greg Moore in great shape, but don't forget Michael Andretti's been running well all afternoon. Fontana. Greg Moore, race leader. The yellow flag still flies here in Fontana as a result of the blow-up of Dario Franchitti. Mauricio Gugelmin is now being shown in 2nd position. Jimmy Vasser 3rd. Paul Tracy 4th. Michael Andretti in 5th. Richie Hearn 6th. Scott Pruitt in 7th. Now, there's a few drivers, 3 drivers, who did not come in on that yellow flag and have decided to stay out there and gamble on a bit of strategy.
That's right, Ben. Alex Zanardi, who had been running in 13th place. In 14th had been Adrian Fernandez, and also Robbie Gordon, who'd been in 17th. They have not made a pit stop. They therefore move themselves to the front of the field, and before we go green again, they will be waved past the pace car and will be able to take up position at the back of the field at the tail end of the lead lap.
Just looking at the points there, and the reason for that, of course, is this battle for second place in the championship between Jimmy Vasser, Dario Franchitti and Adrian Fernandez. And that battle, of course, Dario Franchitti has gone out of the battle altogether now. He has to sit and watch and see what happens to Jimmy Vasser throughout the course of this race. But Jimmy needs a third position to try and wrap it up. We've got a chance to hear from Dario Franchitti, who's made it back to the pit lane now, walking back sadly, of course. But, well, that's just the way it goes. He's had a tremendous end to the season. Let's go and hear what Dario Franchitti has to say about it.
Dario Franchitti. And Dario, we talked with Kim about the disappointment of losing the engine. Did you feel like you had a car that was capable of winning this 500-mile race today?
I don't know, to be honest. I think I could see Greg was fairly fast, but we caught him in traffic. I think my car was really good in traffic. I think Team Co-Green did a wonderful job, having run so badly at Michigan. We were at the back and we've really worked very hard, and we ran at the front today, had some pretty interesting moments out there in traffic. It's a lot of fun racing with the Hanford wing.
You like it?
I like it. I'm not sure it's entirely safe, but I like it. It's there's some pretty interesting moments, but I'd just like to say thanks to my guys at Team Co-Green and everybody associated with us for a wonderful season. And we really have to sit and see where Jimmy finishes, and that will really decide whether we finish second, third, or wherever in the championship.
And again, we mentioned $500,000 if you can finish second. Let's go back to Michigan now. The difference between running here and at Michigan, because at Michigan we saw more lead changes, 2 and 3 wide more frequently than we're seeing here.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit different. This is more of a one-lane racetrack. You can get 2 abreast, but it's pretty difficult. Really, the only passing is in the draft on the straights into the corners. You're not going to really go around the outside of somebody unless you're just very, very good. I think that's probably the main difference, but it's still making for some exciting racing out there.
Yes, it is. And next time we see you, we'll be a mile and a half at Homestead, Florida next March. Wish you well.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Gary.
Teammate Paul Tracy still out there. He's in 4th position at the moment. Good run this so far from Tracy, but we're not yet at half distance in this race. You have to sit back and enjoy the motor racing in one of these 500 milers. It takes a while, but watch the whole thing unfold and develop, and then as the climax begins to build, you've really got an idea of who's in good shape, who's perhaps been improving throughout the race, and who's got a real chance of victory. I suppose if we look at how things are panning out at the moment, what you were just talking about there, Jeremy, the fact that Zanardi, Fernandez and Robbie Gordon have all gambled on not making a stop at this point, that could be crucial, couldn't it? Because they've got themselves back onto the lead lap. If there's an opportunity for them to make a stop, perhaps under a yellow fairly soon, then that really is going to make a huge difference. And don't forget, Fernandez still in that battle for second place.
That's absolutely right, and Adrian has been very strong on these sort of tracks for the last couple of years. You might remember here last year he had a miserable season with the Lola chassis with Tasman Motorsports, but Chris Saunders and the engineers at Lola did a lot of work in their wind tunnel, and they came up with some big improvements for this race. And here at Fontana last year, Adrian Fernandez really was one of the stars. This track is all about confidence as a driver. He didn't have that for most of last year with the Lola, and despite that he overcame that. He was able to take advantage of the advances made by Lola, and he had a brilliant run to 3rd place here at Fontana. And this year, of course, with the Patrick Racing team, he was on the pole at Michigan. He was in contention there for much of the race, and he was quick in practice as well this weekend. He crashed in qualifying, but he was fast when he went off the road. So I think he is a factor this afternoon. He will need a yellow in order in the next 15 laps or so to really take advantage of this strategy.
The car's coming round now to take the green flag as the race gets underway on lap number 121. Greg Moore leads Maurizio Gugelmin in 2nd place. Gugelmin certainly had a great pit stop that last time around, and now Gugelmin's had a great restart as well. And Gugelmin goes back in front of Greg Moore. Maurizio Gugelmin, the experienced Brazilian who, like Mark Blundell, has suffered a horrible season with Pac West this year, is up front. He's passed Greg Moore, and Jimmy Vasser, we ride with Jimmy now in 3rd place, and he now goes chasing after the Canadian Moore as well. I have to say, this last stint particularly, Greg Moore didn't seem to have the same pace as he did in the early part of the race. Perhaps just playing it patiently, perhaps they've lost quite the brilliant setup on the car that they had in the early stages. Jimmy Vasser now just looking to the inside, nope, decides against it.
And Tracy there in 4th place as well. But no, I think Greg Moore, he's a pretty canny campaigner these these days. He's still young, of course. He is only 23 years old, but he really has displayed a maturity beyond his years, and he's had a pretty disappointing second half to this campaign. He was very much a championship contender the first half of the season, and a miserable sequence of 4 straight DNFs. At no point since there is Paul Tracy making a move on Jimmy Vasser.
Yes,
but I think Moore is just playing it calm at this stage in the race.
Paul Tracy goes to the inside. That puts him into third place. So now it's Guterman, Greg Moore, Paul Tracy, Jimmy Vasser, and then Michael Andretti in the back car. Don't count him out either, because he dropped down the ranks earlier on as a result of a slightly different strategy. But then he's right back up with the leaders at this point. Let's just concentrate on Maurizio Guterman for a moment. Best result of the year, 4th position, and that's after a season last year when he took his first win. There is Michael Andretti, by the way. Michael making a move on Jimmy Vasser. That puts him up into 4th position. Paul Tracy is the next one that he's going for, and of course remember what happened to these two when they got together in Australia. There was a little bit of bumping and boring going on before they had the incident which saw the front fin of Andretti's car bent and Tracy pick up a puncture. No love lost between these two at the moment, and I wonder if this is going to be as clean as it should be. On the other hand, I'm sure they're both extremely aware that you cannot afford any little mistakes on this sort of track. You've got to play the game properly. Now then, good battle.
Well, this is lap 125. We are halfway through this motor race, and it's there's a yellow out again. Oh, what a shame for JJ Leto. He'd been running well. He's actually down in 14th place. He had lost a lap during the previous stint, and it looks like another problem there. That's another Mercedes engine, and an ominous amount of smoke coming from the engine cover there. And that's a shame. JJ been running well this weekend.
Well, on the engine manufacturers, they've all pretty much lost one. We saw Meyer blow a Ford, we've seen JJ blow a Mercedes, and we saw some problems with the Penske, but we don't know whether that was probably, it may well have been gearbox. And of course we've seen a Honda go in a big way, that of Dario Franchitti. So we'll just have to wait and see.
And of course this yellow is exactly what Messrs Zanardi, Fernandez and Robbie Gordon just needed. They really needed this yellow. Now they can make a pit stop and have a full amount of fuel, and in fact they'll have another, at least 6 or 7 laps of fuel over the other front-running contenders as well. So brilliant news for those guys.
Yeah.
And we will have 10 cars on the lead lap, and pretty much all of them will have most of, or almost a full tank of fuel. So we've got quite a race building up here this afternoon.
Yes, good tactics from Zanardi, Fernandez and Gordon, or from their teams respectively, the Ganassi team, the Patrick team and Argero Wells. And there is the pit for Adrian Fernandez, all set and ready. Now remember, Adrian started at the back, right at the back. He was on the last row of the grid after an accident in qualifying yesterday. He was setting fast warm-up times, but he then crashed before he'd even set one flying official lap. Adrian therefore had to start at the back. He's gradually worked his way up the order. Thanks to this strategy, he's on the lead lap. He's up to 9th place. Looking good for the Mexican. But into the pits comes Alex Zanardi as well. Adrian Fernandez has come in just behind him, and then Robbie Gordon has come in just behind him as well.
Yeah, the pits are open this time around, so only the cars on the lead lap can make a pit stop this time around. That is those 3 cars. And there we see Adrian Fernandez peeling into his pit. Ahead of him there is Alex Zanardi. But there is Mike Sales' crew that will work on Adrian Fernandez's car. And they've played some super strategy this afternoon. A little bit of good fortune involved. You need that in motor racing, Ben, don't you?
You always do. You always do. As Robbie Gordon gets away in the background there, Fernandez gets away, and he should just beat him out. But what about Zanardi? Oh, he's a bit slow away, isn't he? Just across the line ahead. Oof, he made that out only narrowly. Zanardi was in front of these two coming into the pits, but he was very slow. Looks as though there was a problem actually pulling away out of his pit lane. Let's hope that that doesn't signify something more serious. They do all get out of the pits onto the track. It's Guterman race leader here, just over half distance. Moore second, Tracy in third. Let's go down into the pits and hear from JJ Leto.
Running here at Fontana today, we saw the engine go away, but how comfortable did you feel in your rookie season running a super speedway?
Very comfortable. I like the ovals a lot. I don't know why, but it's just from the first test we did last winter time. It has been really good, and we have been improving all the time with Tim Hogan, and the things are looking good. We just keep on having these problems. We can't finish these races. And you know, this is the last race of the season, and hopefully we have a little bit better luck next year. This wasn't one of these $1 million days for me, you know.
Not at all. Thank you so much. We wish you well.
Thank you.
Out ready to go green, Bob?
Well, JJ still got a smile on his face, but they're going green now, and the racing resumes. Let us tell you what happened in the meantime. Alex Zanardi did actually collect one of his team members, one of the crew who were refueling the car. Zanardi got waved out of his pit and went, but the fuel was still connected. Look at this battle for the lead, though. Michael Andretti's just gone up into second, but round the outside has gone Paul Tracy. So Maurizio Gugelmin leads. Tracy now has gone into second place. Michael Andretti up into third, and this is a fabulous restart as Greg Moore finds himself pushed back down to fourth position. Jimmy Vassar's in behind this, watching it all, and meanwhile the black flag has been given for Alex Zanardi. He's being brought into the pits as a result of basically collecting one of his crew members, of pulling away before the fuel hose was released. Although it did look as though there was a bit of a miscommunication. He seemed to have been signalled out. Zanardi has come into the pits now to serve his penalty. And of course, this undoes all the good work that the team had done by getting him back onto the lead lap.
That's right, and there'll be a drive-through penalty for Alex Zanardi. And boy, at 60 miles an hour, that seems like an interminable amount of time. Here he is coming down the pit lane. He is coming in now to serve. That'll be a stop and go. But here is a replay of the incident. That is Rob Hill on the right front wheel. He seems to be waving his hand up and down. It was, I'm not sure, but you can see there the vent hose is still in the car, and the vent man was pulled over there by that fuel hose, or the vent hose, and he went tumbling down the pit lane, but I think he's okay.
Yes, we've heard that he is okay, so that's good news, but Zanardi having to serve the penalty as a result. Obviously a confusion there, really, in communication as to what was going on. But look at this battle for second. Greg Moore trying to get back past Michael Andretti. It is Paul Tracy who's up front now. Paul Tracy has taken the lead on this restart. Tremendous effort that, indeed, from Paul Tracy, who's now in front. Andretti in second place, and Greg Moore has gone back down to third place. But it's all happening as Jimmy Vassar now puts a move on Greg Moore. Fantastic racing up front, 133 laps completed. So up front, the battle continues. Paul Tracy up front. I'm glad to say that we've been joined in the commentary box by Dario Franchitti. Dario, I'm not glad in a way, because I really would prefer you still to be going around out there, but thanks for joining us, and you've just joined in time to see your teammate go in front.
Yeah, that's what I want. You know, if I can win the race, then I want to see Paul. I said to him at the start of the weekend, I think you're going to win this one. He's been looking strong all weekend, quietly confident, but at the end of the day, it comes down to a drafting game, and whoever manages to just time it right is going to win the race.
Tell us what it's like out there racing in these conditions, especially with the Hanford wing. We seem to see one occasion where you try to move on Greg, and the car then seemed to go very close to the wall. Is that true? Did it lose the downforce at that time?
The whole problem here is you're gaining and losing downforce the whole time you're driving around. There was one point Greg was behind me pretty close to the start of the race, and I caught somebody's draft the wrong way, and I was on the rack stops coming out of turn 2 completely sideways. Left a couple of black marks. The whole time here coming into 3 and 4, you're really sliding up against the wall. It's pretty interesting. It keeps you honest out there. You're just constantly looking in your mirror, seeing who's drafting up behind you, drafting the next guy. The car is sliding a lot, which is kind of interesting at 235 miles an hour plus. So it's a lot of fun. I'm not sure how safe it is, but it's a lot of fun.
You say that the car's sliding a lot. Of course, when we're watching on the monitor here, that's something we can't really see, is it?
No, I think because of the speed, the slightest little slide, you really feel it in the car, but you can't see it there. I mean, this looks easy watching Pruitt's in-car. It just looks driving around in circles. I can tell you, it's hard work. It's definitely the hardest form of racing, I would say, just because you're always thinking of strategy, and also if the car's not right, there's no way you're going to be at the front of the track.
Well, you can see Maurizio Gugelmin in that little battle, but he's dropped back a bit. He was leading at the restart here, and now suddenly he finds himself down to 6th position. Now, there's a little story in itself, isn't it? Out in front one moment, 6th the next moment.
Well, that's right. I think what you saw after the yellow when I was in second, Greg was leading, was the fact there was a load of cars between us, and the back markers were passing Greg, and I managed to catch up with him. It's very difficult to run out front here, and if there's a slight problem with the car, one set of tyres maybe differs from another set, that's when you're going to see things like Gugelmin going to the back. Maybe the car is just not balanced quite as well as it was on the last set. So minute changes make such a big difference here. It's quite incredible how how small a change makes such a great difference, and really you've got to get the car as close to perfection for that last dash to the flag, I think.
Greg Moore has just gone past Jimmy Vasser. Now that's good news for you. Of course, if Jimmy Vasser finishes third or higher today, then he's going to snatch some. What's happened there?
Scott Pruitt. He lost it coming through, right in front of us here in turn 4. Heavy contact with the outside wall. There is Scott Pruitt on board with his car as it slides down onto the infield then.
He's got the steering wheel off already, Jeremy, and it looks as though he's going to try and get out very quickly. That's right in front of our commentary box, basically where he's hit the wall. There are bits of car all over the place. Scott is getting out of the car, and has he unplugged? No, he doesn't bother to unplug his lead from the helmet. He is out. That's the good news. It's gone in backwards, so the back of the car has taken the impact, but the next caution period caused by a heavy collision against the wall for Scott Pruitt, and he takes a little breather there just sitting on the side pod.
That of course was our pole sitter, Scott Pruitt. He'd been looking strong all weekend. He lost a lap in the early stages. No, he didn't, sorry, but it was his teammate, of course, wasn't it, Adrian Fernandez? But Scott Pruitt had been running well all day long. He was in the lead pack, staying out of trouble and really looking good, and that's a shame for Scott Pruitt. Here's a replay there. That is Pruitt on the left of the screen with Mark Blundell, a lap car behind him, and he's coming through turn 4, and the back end just comes around him, Dario.
Yeah, it looks like he tried to pinch it down a little bit tight there. That's one of the things with the Hanford wing. The cars are so sensitive to steering movement. If you try and pinch it at all close to the inside of the track, you're going to have that reaction.
Yeah, just let go so fast, doesn't it, when it does go wrong. This is it, into turn number 3. Let's watch. Talk us through it a bit, Dario.
Just watch how fast it lets go here. He's steering it. He should really be letting it drift up now, and it's gone. There's nothing you can do. When it gets to that angle, it's all luck. I'm glad to see he's okay. It was a pretty big hit there.
That's right. He didn't even bother. You see, the opposite lot went on a little bit, but then he didn't even bother putting any more on. It's just no point, is there?
Eventually, it gets to a point. You know pretty much it gets slightly out, and that's it. It's all over.
Thankfully, no one else was actually in that position on that high line as they came round. That's, of course, is the worst situation. If you're on the high line already, there's nowhere for you to go.
That's exactly right. You can't pull the car down quickly here. Everything's got to be slow, deliberate movements.
Mark Blundell getting around the back of him before the car came across, and that's a pretty scary situation. He must have been very aware there that the car was beginning to go, and he just kept his foot hard down and managed to get past him before the car of Pruitt came across.
That impact, though, is very interesting. You can see the whole back end of the car sort of concertinaed. Everything collapses to absorb that massive impact against the wall. That impact was probably, I'm going to hazard a guess here, but somewhere between 50 and 80 Gs, I would suggest. And the gearbox just collapses around the back of the car, and it absorbs so much impact.
Well, Paul Tracy is race leader. The pits are now open, so here's some interesting strategy perhaps to be called. Will Tracy be coming into the pits? Andretti running in second place at the moment, and Greg Moore in third.
Yeah, I think we'll find them all into the pits this time around. The last pit stop was on lap 115. That's 25 laps ago. Admittedly, a lot of that has been under yellow, but at this stage in the race, there's still 110 laps to go, and you're going to need to make at least 2 more pit stops in any case. So I think we'll see all the leaders. Well, here they are. Paul Tracy leads them onto pit lane.
Yes, they're all coming into the pits. There's a marshal down there with a fairly brave marshal standing in the middle of the road, guiding those people who are staying out past the incident, which comes through approaching the start-finish line. But now let's concentrate on these pit lane battles between the crews. Your crew seem to be doing a pretty good job today, Dario.
Yeah, my guys were really fired up for today. I spoke to Paul's guys before I came up here, and they were saying he had a bit too much front wing in the car, so they're going to take some front wing out of it. But they're very happy. Pit work's so important here with 7 or 8 stops.
We've seen this.
The wing coming off.
Yeah, just a little adjustment on the front wing there. We've seen a few cars sliding quite a lot when they get onto the concrete. That looks as though there's a problem. Oh, they were taking a wicker bill off the rear wing, weren't they?
Yeah, I guess Paul was complaining there was too much drag. They took the wicker out of the car. Fairly brave move. I tried to do some laps myself with the wicker out of it, and pretty much came into the pits pretty quickly.
What is that exactly? It's just a little piece on the rear wing that
just creates more downforce. It's a little piece of, I guess, aluminium, and that basically you can slide them in and out different. The higher the piece, the more downforce the car creates, but also the more drag it has.
Well, Paul Tracy therefore losing out on that round of pit stops. It took them a while to do that, so that's dropped him back a little bit. Those positions will change once they've all come around at the end of this lap, so stay with us and we'll sort it all out for you. Fantastic crowd gathered here today and enjoying an intriguing race so far that has seen a number of different leaders. Michael Andretti is up front at the moment, though, with Jimmy Vasser second, Greg Moore third, Mauricio Gugelmin fourth, Richie Hearn fifth, and Paul Tracy, who was leading before that last round of pit stops, back in sixth. Now, a chance for us to take a breather for a second and look back to what happened in the last race at Surfers Paradise. It was the last street course race of the year, the visit to Surfers Paradise, and a beautiful place for a race. The start of the race, Dario Franchitti was on pole position. Alex Zanardi could match him at the start, and Franchitti it was who pulled away the initial advantage. In the pits, and the two teams going to work, with Zanardi getting the slight edge and getting out ahead of Franchitti. The two of them continued their battle. Meanwhile, Michael Andretti hit the back of Paul Tracy's car. Paul Tracy has picked up a ban for the first race of next year as a result. Jimmy Vasser went out in a damaging incident with Helio Castroneves, which put second place in the championship in doubt. There were more accidents as well, as tangles in the chicane caused problems for a number of drivers. At the end of it all, Alex Zanardi came through to take the win under yellows, with Dario Franchitti in second position. Dario, that was a good race from you, and a really good battle with Alex Zanardi all the way through, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were pushing each other really hard. I think we had a bit of an advantage over the rest of the people, and we were just completely flat out the whole race, pushing each other, and he almost hit the wall at one point when I was behind him. I think we kind of lost the race in the pits. That first pit stop really didn't help us, and the kind of mix-up in strategy at the end there. But second place was good, moved us up in the championship, but it would have been lovely to win a race that was so close between the two of us. But obviously next year he's going to Formula 1, so I'll have to find somebody else to race against.
Well, I think you'll find a few, won't you, in this series? It's such a competitive championship. And Greg Moore, I mean, you know, you've been battling with him. I know he's a friend of yours as well, but surely you've got to look at him as one of your main rivals in the series.
Yeah, I mean, looking down this list here, they're all rivals, really. I think Greg's going to be one of the championship contenders, as is Jimmy Vasser next year, Michael, Paul. There's so many of them. It's going to be another exciting season, really. This has been a great season, and Zanardi kind of dominated, taking advantage sometimes of other people's misfortune, but next year's going to be even more competitive, I think.
There is Paul Tracy, your teammate. It was a problem getting that wicker bill out. It basically got caught. It was rubber accumulation, and there's a lot of little bits of rubber around, of course, and they get flicked up and onto the wing, and perhaps that's just causing it to stick a little bit, and that was the problem. Of course, Paul has a lot of oval track experience. Has that helped you at all this year in terms of coming into the team? Last year, you didn't have a teammate. You had to learn on your own. Has it helped you having Paul Tracy alongside?
It has helped, because obviously you get lots of information coming out of the team, and I can see what I'm doing wrong if Paul's doing something right. The problem occurs when you're actually going faster than your teammate, then you can't really learn anything. But it's been a real good year with Paul and myself. We've exchanged a lot of information. We get on really well. Even after the problems we had in Houston, we sorted that out immediately, and we make a good team.
That's good. That's good news to hear. Of course, the Houston incident when Paul tried to grab the lead from you in the slippery conditions, and certainly it could have caused a much bigger problem. You were fairly fortunate that your car wasn't damaged in that, but it's good to hear that the relationship between you two is still good. Let's just recap the race a little bit. The race leader at the moment is Michael Andretti. 145 laps completed, still 105 to go. There have been 7 leaders, 16 lead changes in that time, 5 caution periods over some 38 laps, and 9 cars out of the 28 that started are out of the race. And there's the list of retirements from the race.
And now, as a result of this round of pit stops, or not as the case may be, we have 13 cars on the lead lap. This time around, Mark Blundell, Christian Fittipaldi, Alex Zanardi again, and also Bobby Rahal and Max Papis did not make a pit stop this time around. So this caution was great news for them, as of course it was for Scott Pruitt. Well, the last one, as it worked in the same way as the last caution did for Scott Pruitt. They were able to make up that lap, and now we have 13 cars on the lead lap.
Wow, so Zanardi, even in spite of the penalty he had to serve for pulling away too early out of his pits, is still on the lead lap.
Now we're trying to climb back up again.
See if we can hear a bit of that radio communication. It's a bit muffled today, so we're not really getting to hear very much of it on this occasion. On-board camera there with Gilles de Ferran, and Gilles' long way down. He's down in 16th position. Bit of a surprise to see him that far down at this stage of the game. There you can see the long list of retirements. Cars that have gone out mainly through mechanical problems, and of course the 500 milers are notoriously difficult on the mechanics of the cars, aren't they? The engine under a lot of strain on this type of track. But Dario, presumably there are steps taken to to not stress the engine, particularly in the early stages of the race.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be sitting going around on the limiter the whole way around, so you look after the engine, use 6th gear a lot of the time. Most of the time you actually have to use it because you're getting such a toe off the cars. You're going up to almost 250 miles an hour in the toe. Then you've got to go through downshift as you come into the corner because the engine will not pull the revs in with the Hanford device on. So you're working pretty hard out there for a super speedway, but you've got to take as much precaution as you can, not rev the engine quite as hard as you normally would, but it doesn't seem to have worked today.
Sometimes.
At Michigan Speedway, we know that some of the teams are running 3 top gears to cope with that. Is it the same here?
We ran 2 today. We felt quite confident we could run with 2. But yeah, there are people with 3 top gears out there. It just depends on which way you look at it. You've got to be careful if you have 3 top gears coming through the gearbox because of the big split between 3rd and 4th gear. If you damage the gearbox slightly here, you're going to have a big problem. The gearbox will pack in on you.
Right, we're getting ready for the cars to restart now. Green flag is about to be waved and this race is about to restart. Michael Andretti leads the pack around as we're getting ready for the green flag. Andretti it is from Jimmy Vasser and Greg Moore, with Maurizio Gugelmin now down into 4th place. Richie Hearn is in 5th place, and immediately Jimmy Vasser has a little look at getting past Michael Andretti, but Michael takes a lot of speed into turns 1 and 2 and stays ahead. And we now ride on board, looking back at the helmet of Michael Andretti as he keeps a little bit of an eye on his mirrors to see where this man is. Jimmy Vasser, well, he's on his outside a little bit, but too far back to challenge as they go into turn 3 and 4. And Paul Tracy there trying to make up for the ground lost in the pits on that last stop. Now goes round the outside of Maurizio Gugelmin, and Dario Franchitti giving him a bit of support up here in the commentary boxes. Tracy up into 3rd place again, and he really does seem to be flying. But of course, he's now got to get used to the car in these race conditions with that change to the handling they made. So he's got to be a bit careful.
Yeah, he's going to have to be a bit cautious here. The thing's going to be really quick on the straight now. The problem's going to be in traffic in the middle of the corner. He's going to be a bit cautious, but I think Paul's the man for the job, and fingers crossed he's going to pull this one off.
Yeah, I think he's about as brave as they come, isn't he, Dario?
He's the bravest guy I know.
Well, that's saying something, and he's certainly running well in this race at the moment. There is the view with Jimmy Vasser looking back at Greg Moore. 100 laps to go as they've crossed the line this time. So, making progress. These cars still in the race and still on the lead lap, as Jeremy said, down to Alex Zanardi and Bobby Rahal on the lead lap still. Look at Michael Andretti and Greg Moore absolutely side by side here as they come round to complete another lap, and Jimmy Vasser just managing to pull away a fraction up front. Battles going on further down as well. Robbie Gordon's got himself up into 7th position now. Adrian Fernandez is in 8th. Mark Blundell is in 9th place, and Christian Fittipaldi is in 10th position. Tracy, meanwhile, has been squeezed back down to 4th again.
Yeah, and Michael Andretti there gets that place back. He and Greg Moore has a good little dice going on there. And there you see Paul Tracy tucked on the outside there and has to ease off the throttle just a little bit. Moore has the optimal line into turn 3.
So Michael Andretti seems to be very comfortable with his car in clean air. He's opened up just a little advantage over Greg Moore. But Jimmy Vasser, remember, is just ahead of Michael Andretti. So it's Vasser up front, the Ganassi car of Jimmy Vasser. Both Ganassi cars still running in this race. They have a remarkable reliability record over the last few years. Really astonishing reliability record, don't they, Dario?
Yeah, it would be nice to have that reliability. I think they do a great job. They've been together a long time, the whole team, and they had the same package for a long time. That's something we're aiming at in Team Co Green for next year. The thing I can't get used to here is on TV the cars don't look like they're going that quick, and then to see it as they come past the booth here, it's amazing how fast they are going.
I know. I wish we there was some way of really showing to everybody watching how fast these cars are going. And as you say, when they come past the booth, you can feel the speed. You can, just let alone seeing it as they go past us. But there's just no way really of being able to show that on TV. The cameras have to be far enough back to be able to show the cars, and then you lose that impression of speed. But as you said, they're getting up to nearly 250 miles an hour if you get the toe just right.
Yeah, you get up to 250 in the toe, and you're not really dropping below 230 too much. And when the car's sliding about as much as it does at that speed, you try not to think about the consequences, to be honest, otherwise you wouldn't do it.
It's astonishing, as you said earlier, when you watch the onboard cameras, it looks so easy. Look at Greg Moore going down the inside of Michael Andretti. That was a fairly late decision to go for it, but it was a clean pass. Andretti was aware that he was there and just allowed enough space. And now we've got the overhead view, and that gives you an idea, perhaps, just how quickly they're travelling across the ground. Michael Andretti goes to the inside now into turn 1, but not quite alongside enough to take the place back from Greg Moore. So Jimmy Vasser still leading, 155 laps completed now. Look at this, Michael has picked up the draft and gone down the inside. Now into turn 3, Michael goes ahead, and this continues to swap around place by place. There was an amazing Indy Lights race here yesterday. I don't know if you got a chance to watch any of that, Darry. You're probably in your driver's briefing at that point.
We actually got a seat by the window, a few of us who thought about it, and we sat and watched it out the window as it was going on. And I don't think Wally was too happy, the chief steward, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Wagging his finger for not paying attention, right?
He was. He had a bit of a word with us afterwards. Had to stay back after class.
I can imagine. Well, the Indy Lights race yesterday certainly saw some great action. We saw cars 4 abreast at one point, all trying to get around the track at the same time. It was won by the American driver Mark Hotchkiss, and the championship already wrapped up, of course, in favour of Cristiano De Mata. He'll be moving up into champ cars next year. That was confirmed this weekend with Archero Wells team running Cristiano De Mata next season. Just looking a bit further down the order here, Maurizio Gugelmin and Mark Blundell.
There they are, almost side by side there through turns 1 and 2. That is Adrian Fernandez, though, who's moved past both of these guys since the restart. Fernandez now up into 6th place. There is Gugelmin on the left of the screen. Oh, lie. Gugelmin's got back ahead of him again. But they've been dicing around here so much these last few laps. And that is a battle for 6th, 7th and 8th position.
Well, it's fast, furious stuff. But of course, these guys have there's got to be a little bit of patience still at this time. There's still an awfully long way to go in this race. It must seem, Dario, when you're out there, you must do sort of half an hour or so of the race and then look at the pit board and get the information and think, surely we've done more than that. It must feel like such a long time.
That happened in the first stint today. I couldn't believe how long it was taking, and then the next tank of fuel just went by and it felt like 2 minutes, and because we were so close and running at the front, time was flying at that point.
And no doubt it depends an awful lot on whether your car is handling well or not. When it's handling badly, it seems to go on forever. When it's handling well, it seems to go just like that.
Yeah, I mean, when it's bad here, it's the longest day of your life. At the moment, I think Greg's got something in hand. I think he's just sitting there waiting till the end of the race. That's my feeling on it.
He certainly seems to play these 500-mile races well. He was leading until 10 laps to go here last year, winner at Michigan as well. So he does love these kind of races. Jimmy Vasser still leading. Greg Moore in 2nd. Michael Andretti in 3rd place. Paul Tracy in 4th. Maurizio Gugelmin in 5th place. Mark Blundell in 6th. Then it's Richie Hearn, Adrian Fernandez, Alex Zanardi in 9th. Christian Fittipaldi 10th. And Robbie Gordon 11th. Just behind Robbie Gordon is Bobby Rahal, and there is the view with Bobby. And Dario, thank you very much for joining us for this part of the broadcast. Great shame, of course, to lose you from the race so early on with the engine having blown up, but thank you for joining us. Prospects for next year, you must be looking forward to that now.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking towards the championship. We ran very well today on the oval. That's a big plus for us because we've been struggling with the setup a little bit this year on the oval, but the road course is obviously the team's done a great job, and we won 3 races. We're looking towards the championship next year. That's our goal. It has to be. We've got to see what Jimmy does today. If he finishes outside the top 3, then second's ours in the championship. I have no control over that now, but whatever happens, it's been a great season, a lot of fun, and we're going to come back next year and push even harder.
Great. Any message for all the fans on Eurosport watching back in Europe?
Yeah, I'd just like to say hi to the guys at home, and I'll see you on Friday.
Good. All right. Well, good to see you're heading back home again, are you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Thanks for joining us, Dario. And shame about the bad luck today, but we'll keep an eye on your teammate Paul Tracy, see how he gets on in the race. West cars were the fastest on the last lap, so again Maurizio Gugelmin and Mark Blundell really are in great shape here today, much better shape than we've seen so far this year. Mark Blundell, as we mentioned earlier, the winner here last year, winner of 3 races in all last season, hasn't looked close to being on the podium this year, but on this occasion running in 6th place, very much on the lead lap, and with still 87 laps to go, plenty could still happen. Michael Andretti we ride with now.
In 3rd place race is Michael Andretti, and the leaders are lapping incredibly consistently. The last 8 laps at 32.2. As I say, that Jimmy Vasser proves me wrong. He comes past at 31.9 actually, so a couple of tenths improvement there.
So Vasser just 0.4 of a second ahead of Greg Moore. They've just completed 164 laps. They're out on the backstretch, and it's Jimmy Vasser ahead of Moore, ahead of Andretti. Then Paul Tracy, Gugelmin, Mark Blundell is down in 6th position. Adrian Fernandez, who started right at the back of the field, remember, is up in 7th. Alex Zanardi is running better than he did earlier in the race. He gained that lap back onto the lead lap, and he's now in 8th position with Richie Hearn 9th and Robbie Gordon in 10th place. Oh, that was very wide. In fact, that's a back marker, I think, just getting out of the way. It's Tony Kanaan who's moving out of the way.
Yeah, he'd actually just made a pit stop, just come back out onto the racetrack here. He, of course, was out of sequence. He made up a lap on that previous yellow, but he lost it again now because on the previous yellow, I should say, he made up a lap, but under this last yellow, he did not stop. Now he needs a pit stop, so that was a scheduled stop for Tony Kanaan, and he goes back to being 4 laps down.
Michael Andretti's moved back into 2nd place. Jimmy Vasser has maintained the lead for a few laps here, but the battle has gone on between Michael Andretti and Greg Moore behind him. It does look as though Jimmy's got a good car. Seems to be able to run in clean air without giving anybody too much of a tow. Meanwhile, Scott Pruitt has made his way back to the pits after that very scary-looking accident. Remember, Pruitt was on pole position here, crashed out of this race when he spun in turn number 4, demolished the back end of his car, and Scott Pruitt has made it back to the pit lane. Meanwhile, Greg Moore trying to go back around the outside of Michael Andretti, and let me tell you, we've just seen Mark Blundell head into the pit lane. So an important stop there coming up for Blundell, but look at this side-by-side motoring at 240 miles an hour, just inches apart as Michael Andretti and Greg Moore do battle for 2nd position. In the inset, you can see Mark Blundell is in his Pac West pit. Fuel goes aboard. It's a regular stop for Blundell, who gets back out, and Michael Andretti, meanwhile, on the right-hand side of your picture, is still trying to fend off Greg Moore for that 2nd place.
Great stuff there, and Michael Andretti, as you say, in 2nd place. There is a lap car, the Eagle Toyota, then the race leader Jimmy Vasser, and here is the battle for 2nd place. That was Michael Andretti. The blue car behind him is Greg Moore. Let's go down to the pit lane.
But you look sore. Yeah, a little stiff. I took a pretty good lick out there, and it's just unfortunate. I'm not right for sure what happened. We just got down in there, all of us are racing together, and the rear just all of a sudden just jumped out from underneath me. So we'll go back and look at things and see if we can find anything to happen, but not really the way I wanted to go out at the end of the season. We qualified on pole here with Vistion and with Ford and my last race with Pat, so this is a little disappointing.
Track conditions, I mean, obviously the car stepped out, but prior to that, you were on fire.
Yeah, we started out, the car was a bit loose. We made some adjustments, actually went a lap down, and then passed Greg back and got our lap back. And it was just unfortunate because we finally had a pretty good car going, and all of a sudden it jumped out from underneath me.
Well, thankfully you're okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, as Dario was telling us, the fine line on setup of these cars, just trying to get the balance between a car that's drivable and movable in traffic and being able to pick your line, and then having a car that's just a little bit too nervous, and perhaps that's what happened to Scott Pruitt. It was fast, but perhaps it was a little too fast, a little bit unstable by the time they'd made their changes to it. You're looking now at Alex Zanardi, of course our champion, who's now moved into 6th place as a result of Mark Blundell's pit stop. Remember, he had a black flag as well earlier on when he hit a member of his crew when they put the fuel in. He got the signal to come out, or appeared to get the signal to come out. The fuel hose was still engaged and his refueler was thrown to the ground. But in spite of serving that penalty, Zanardi, through tactics, has managed to stay on the lead lap.
Yeah, that last yellow played, of course, in his favour. When the other guys came into the pits, he did not, and was able to regain the lead lap. So that is good news for Alex Zanardi. He's going very quickly now as well. He just moved past Adrian Fernandez into 6th place last time around, so he's looking good, really running strong.
Zanardi in his last race in Champ Cars. It is sad, of course, to think that he'll be leaving what has been such a successful series for him. 3 years over here, and remember when he did come out here, he really wasn't a star at all. He was somebody who was struggling to get a professional race drive at all, and a lot of it thanks to Reynard. There's Bobby Rahal coming into the pits meanwhile, and another important stop here.
Yeah, that's right. Bobby Rahal was running in 10th place. His last pit stop was on lap 141, so 31 laps here. 2600 degrees, so that's a little bit early for him. Alex Zanardi, though, he didn't stop. I think he's just into the pits as well behind him. And we might see just out of the corner of the screen there, Alex Zanardi. There is Alex Zanardi. He definitely did need a pit stop. He last stopped on lap 131. So I'm not quite sure why Bobby Rahal would need a stop this time around.
Into the pits then, Alex Zanardi. Now then, they will be ever more cautious, surely, to get him out safely this time without any problem when he gets waved out. Now, waiting for the signal. Any changes to the front wing? Oh, he's run over the hose now. Now, that could be another penalty. I don't know whether that will count, because it was only the car had just rolled a fraction and it had jammed the hose under the wheel. Does that count as a penalty?
Generally speaking, I think it does. If you touch a hose, that's it. But I'm not too sure about that, I must admit. Billy Camphausen, though, the card official, was right there, and Billy will call it right. He knows the rules better than I do, that's for sure. But I thought the rule was if you touch it, you have a penalty. But if he didn't actually run over it, the crewman was able to pull that thing out of the way. Maybe he'll get away with that one. We'll see in a couple of laps.
Yes, it wasn't as if it was the driver had tried to pull away early. It was just the car had rolled slightly when they put it back down on the ground, and that had jammed the hose under the front wheel, so the mechanics pulled the car back. So hopefully that's all right. I think he will probably get away with that one, and Zanardi back on track again. I was just saying there about Zanardi, how he wasn't a star at all before he came here. It was Reynards themselves who said to Chip Ganassi, look, you really ought to try this guy. He is a true talent. And so they did. They ran a test, and really the story has been a great one ever since then. Meanwhile, in this race, Zanardi, having made that stop, of course, dropped back a little bit, but he should be in good shape once the leaders have made their respective stops. Michael Andretti, in the black car there, right-hand side of your picture, has caught up to race leader Jimmy Vasser. We were saying how Jimmy had a comfortable lead, but now suddenly Andretti is very much closer.
That's right, and right ahead of Jimmy Vasser and on the inside line and out of the way is the Newman Haas teammate of Michael Andretti, Christian Fittipaldi. But Christian stays down there on the low line. He had just made a pit stop about 6 or 7 laps ago. That took him off the lead lap. He, of course, was one of those people in that earlier sequence who did not stop, as in fact was Bobby Rahal, which explains why he stopped a couple of laps ago. But Christian now, because of that green flag pit stop, goes 2 laps off the pace.
We gather that Tony Kanaan is out of his car. It looks as though the Rookie of the Year, the Brazilian, is out of this race. A shame to finish that way. He likes this track. It was the track that he wrapped up the 1997 Indy Lights Championship. There he is in the inset. You can see Tony out of his car. They are still doing bits and pieces on it, but I think that pretty much is the end of his attempt this afternoon. So no points to be added to his tally, but nonetheless, Tony's done a great job. 9th place in the championship coming into this race, and with a bit of luck, he'll stay in the top 10. No doubt Bobby Rahal is just behind him. Although there's 12 points between the two of them, then Alonso Jr., who won't finish today. Gilles de Ferran also behind Kanaan in the points, but de Ferran in 11th place at the moment, not having a particularly good run. So I think Tony Kanaan will remain in the top 10 in the points by the end of today. Back with our leaders, Jimmy Vasser, Michael Andretti and Greg Moore. We have 71 laps still to go, and we're expecting to see another 1 or 2 pit stops in that time for the main front runners. And of course, strategy and timing of those stops will become absolutely critical. $1 million on offer, remember, at the end of this race to the winner. And that really would be quite some achievements, and Jimmy Vasser has had success in that department in the past, hasn't he?
Yes, indeed. He won the inaugural US 500 at Michigan Speedway a couple of years ago, and he ran awfully strongly through this year's US 500 as well. A very close second place finish, and one of the Newman Haas cars there slowing. I think that's Michael Andretti. He's coming into the pits.
Yes.
And so is Paul Tracy behind him. So scheduled pit stops, I think. This will be pit stop number 5 for these guys, and there is Andretti pulling onto pit lane.
So Michael into the pits, Paul Tracy into the pits. Tracy's gone a little bit quiet in the latter part of this stint, and I wonder if they're going to
watch your speed there.
Keep that wicker bill out of the back wing of his car, or change it again.
Turn a front wing.
Now they were calling for change of front wing on Michael's car.
That's right, and also watch your speed there from Ed Nathman. Don't exceed the speed limit. In the meantime, behind them, the two leaders next time around, lap 182. Vassar and Moore also into the pits as Andretti goes there. 12.7 second stop. Here is Greg Moore in second place behind Jimmy Vassar.
Important stops indeed, and it seems to take just a fraction longer to finish off getting the fuel in Michael Andretti's car than they expected, but it was still a 12-second stop, so not bad at all. See the onboard jack at the back of the car, just underneath the gearbox there, operated by the airline. That now drops the car, fueling is finished, and away goes Greg Moore. Clean stop from him. Now, what about Jimmy Vassar? Is it going to be a clean stop from him? You can just see Greg Moore going past.
So, a change of position
yes,
there, Ben.
That's right.
Greg Moore gets her back ahead of Jimmy Vassar. He had led since the previous restart. After overtaking Michael Andretti, Jimmy Vassar had gone all the way to the front of the field, and now Greg Moore, he falls from third to first.
So, good stop there indeed from the Forsyth team. And Greg Moore, who has featured throughout the course of this afternoon's race. The yellows, and it's one of the target cars, is it? Let's take a look and see. Can't quite know, it's Richie Hearn.
And that yellow comes out.
Continued.
Did he really? And that yellow came out just as Mauricio Gugelmin pulled onto pit lane. If he could have gone around one more lap, that would have been an enormous help for Mauricio Gugelmin. But no, he was committed to making a pit stop. Has to come in. There is Richie Hearn.
Yeah. This was the end of it. Obviously, the car had already been out of control before that point. Everybody else coming around, and of course, he was over the white line. And that's part of the track that drivers on their track already will tend to use. Richie Hearn getting away with it somehow and rejoining. Maurizio Gugelmin coming out of the pits, as is Gilles de Ferran. Pit lane is closed now. Now let's take a look at the replay here. Richie Hearn coming out of the pit lane. Let's see what happened. Off the speed limit button. Accelerates. Oh, and away it goes.
Actually, we saw Jimmy Vassar do exactly that yesterday in practice. So, these cars, they don't, of course, have tyre warmers like in Formula One. Those tyres are stone cold when they get on the car with almost, let's say, 850 horsepower on this sort of a racetrack, and very little downforce indeed. The car becomes awfully squirrely when you put on that horsepower.
Yes, very difficult indeed. And Richie Hearn, just perhaps a momentary lapse of concentration, just a bit too much throttle, a bit hard on the right foot, and that meant that the back end got away. Didn't quite spin it round, but managed to get onto the circuit again. Well, yellows are out again, so a chance for us to again take a mental breather for a second, and a chance to look at next year's schedule. Homestead starts the season off again, as it has done for the last couple of years. Then they go to Japan, the Motegi track, Long Beach, Nazareth Oval, then Rio de Janeiro Oval in Brazil. More ovals coming up at St. Louis, that's the Madison race, and Milwaukee. Then the great road course at Portland, the airport circuit at Cleveland, and then Elkhart Lake, Road America as it's known, one of the best road courses in the United States. Then they've got Toronto in Canada, the street track, the Super Speedway in Michigan, then another street track in Detroit, which has been put back later for next year. It's usually run earlier in the season. Then the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. The Chicago track is a new oval added on to the schedule for next year. Vancouver, the street circuit again. Laguna Seca is Monterey, as it's known. And then September the 26th, Houston in Texas will have its second race. The Gold Coast, Australia, Surfers Paradise on October 17th. And then, just as this year, the last race of the year will be on Halloween weekend in Fontana here in California. The Halloween celebrations in the United States have been taking place this weekend, and all sorts of weird and wacky costumes have been seen. All great fun, and in fact a bunch of kids joining in the fun and games here at the circuit yesterday afternoon with some of the drivers and teams involved. Bobby Rahal, though, running around in, let's see, where is he at the moment? He's in 13th position. This last ride, this last race for the Maestro. 45 years old this year. Just hearing a bit from the radio, but we've got a chance to go down to the pits and hear from Tony Kanaan, who has just joined the list of retirements.
Well, we talked about Tony Kanaan and the problem that you had with the front wings adjusting themselves. How scary was that?
I tell you what, I mean, was very scary because the car got so pushed on traffic and by myself as well that I almost touched the wall 4 times. and I was screaming in the radio. I mean, I don't know what's going on, Steve. I have to come in. And we finally did, and we changed the front wing, and then we got the car so loose because we made adjustments for the wrong things, tire pressures and everything, and then at the end the wheel bearing just broke. But you know, the last race was a tough weekend for us, but we did what we had to do. So I'm the Rookie of the Year. Actually, I'm not a rookie anymore, finally, and I can go back next year and you know, try to do better, finish in the top 10 in the championship. We did what we had to do. I promise that I will win the Rookie of the Year in the beginning. I promise you, Steve, I will finish in the top 10, and I promise I will win the race. So I keep true promise, and I did one. So
what do you promise for next year?
Well, I promise that Tony's going to go back 100%, and I'm going to try to win the championship. I know it's going to be hard, but I'm going to give everything.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
So Tony Kanaan, one of the great finds, really, of the last few years, I think is fair enough to say, Jeremy, one of the great finds of the current breed, or the current crop of drivers in the championship.
Yeah, a lot of young drivers, a lot of young Brazilian drivers around on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean, really. And Tony Kanaan really is highly rated indeed. He really moved to Italy to make his name first in the sport. He won the Fiat Bath Championship there, and he then graduated into Formula 3, won a race in that, had an opportunity to test an Indy Lights car for Steve Horn, got that ride, and he really came in there not terribly, really was unknown by Steve Horn, and boy did he impress that team right away.
Helio Castroneves is down in the pits at the moment. It looks like a routine stop for him. He, of course, the man who battled with Tony Kanaan in the Indy Lights Series last year, another top Brazilian. Looking at the Manufacturers' Championship here, which has been led by Honda in recent races, and in fact Honda wrapping that one up pretty much from Ford and from Mercedes. Mercedes, who won it last year, have really seen a bit of a reversal in fortunes. They had a brand new engine developed by Ilmor, but still in the early stages at the beginning of the year of that development. I think next year we'll be looking at a greater performance from Mercedes-Benz. Looking here at the Nations Cup, and the United States only having an 11-point lead coming into this race.
That's right, and Italy, of course, well, Italy has Alex Zanardi and Max Papis, but Alex Zanardi has scored certainly almost all of those points. So on his own, he's within contact, certainly, with the United States. If he would have finished in the top 3 or 4 and none of the Americans scored any points, then Italy could win the Nations Cup. That'd be fairly remarkable, wouldn't it?
It would be. It would be amazing to see that. And, well, let's take a chance to look at Bobby Rahal. Here we are on the onboard camera. Let's take a little feature of Bobby Rahal in his last race. Bobby Rahal is in his 17th year.
I'm looking forward to the future, and it's not like somebody's forcing me to retire. It's not like, you know, I'm not bitter about where I am in my career. I'm very pleased with it, and so I don't have any reticence or any regrets at all.
In spite of a very successful career, there's still a burning ambition for Bobby Rahal for success in the sport.
To win in your last year would make it, I guess, a little more special, and certainly the well-wishers are all hoping that that's the case. And you know, my sense is that I would be happy that we would have won in any case, and you know, being the last year would just make it that much more special. If I have any regrets, I wish that I had pursued my Formula One career a little more aggressively, or been a little more aggressive about it, rather than just waiting for something to happen. And I paid for that, I think, to some degree. But that's I mean, if that's the only thing you have to worry about in 25 years of racing, I think you've done pretty well.
It's been a tremendous career for Bobby Rahal. There's his crew watching down in the pit lane. Man raced against Gilles Villeneuve in his early days in the Formula Atlantic Championship, finished second to Villeneuve in the 1977 Formula Atlantic Championship, and interesting to hear his comments there about Formula One. Of course, never quite established himself, although he did a couple of Grand Prix, never really came to any more than that.
Yeah, a Wolf chassis that was, wasn't it? In the early 80s, I suppose, very early 80s. Time ago now, that's
Yes.
Well, it is a long time ago.
It is a long time ago, that's right. Even Bobby would admit that, I think. Christian Fittipaldi's been into the pits, comes back out again. This yellow is taking a little while, isn't it, to clean up from. We've had several laps of yellow on this latest stint.
And one reason for that is the fact that the pace car, when the yellow flags came on, Gugelmin was actually pulling onto pit lane. He made his pit stop, went out on the racetrack, and because of that, he was not picked up by the pace car. So he then went round to the back of the pack, and he almost had a whole lap on the field. But before we go green again, everybody else has to be waved past. So a little bit of confusion there, caused by that pit stop as that caution came out. And car followed the right procedure in that case, although a couple of teams might grumble a little bit about it because they were not able to pack up behind the race leader as they would normally do. But that's one of the pitfalls perhaps of this procedure, where the pits are closed until everybody packs up behind the race leader. Because the race leader wasn't on the racetrack, there was no one to pack up behind. But anyway, all is sorted out now, and Gugelmin is in the lead. There is Greg Moore in second place. Behind him is Vasser, Andretti, Tracy, and there's the lap leaders. Greg Moore just led 2 laps more than Jimmy Vasser, and 7 lap leaders.
We hear that Greg Moore has a set of tyres just specially set aside for the last stint of this race. A set of tyres that he reckons the handling of the car should be just about perfect. So obviously everybody building up towards the latter part now. Under 60 laps to go in this race. 191 laps completed. Blundell's been into the pits again. He was in 10th place coming into the pits.
No, I think he was up to 7th actually when he came in. Yeah, so he'll be back now to 10th place and at the back of the pack of cars on the lead lap. Let's run them through them again there. So with 59 laps remaining, all other things remaining equal, probably just one more pit stop will see them through to the end of the race. But on the lead lap then we have Mauricio Gugelmin, Greg Moore, Jimmy Vasser, Michael Andretti, Paul Tracy, Alex Zanardi, Adrian Fernandez, Richie Hearn, on whom we're on board there in 8th place, and then Christian Fittipaldi and Mark Blundell. One lap down, Robbie Gordon, Bobby Rahal, Ryan Herter, Elio Castro Neves and Max Papis in 15th place.
Papis still running then with the Toyota power. Papis will be switching to Team Rahal next year. That's Ford power, so a change of engine manufacturer. The Toyota putting in a greater and greater effort all the time at the moment. Certainly confidence within the Toyota camp that they're going to be a major player in terms of engine manufacturers and scoring real results next year. And we've seen some great results, of course, from the likes of Papis in recent races.
That's right, and a brand new engine to come from Toyota over the winter, so that's going to be very interesting indeed.
Pace car lights are out and we're getting ready for the restart once again here. It'll be lap number 193 as they all get ready to go once again, and it's Mauricio Gugelmin who is going to lead them round. The man who took the pole position here last year at a record speed, a closed circuit record speed of anywhere in the world, over 242 miles an hour, but straight away it's Greg Moore who, no it's not, in fact it's Gilles de Ferran getting his lap back. That's interesting, as Greg Moore was a little further back than that. There's Michael Andretti and Michael and Jimmy Vasser and Alex Zanardi, that is.
That is a battle for 3rd and 4th place there with Michael Andretti on board here, and Gilles de Ferran actually was 2 laps down, so trying to regain one of those 2 lost laps.
Yes, he's been surprisingly off the pace today, Gilles de Ferran, but if he can get out ahead of Mauricio Gugelmin, then he might be able to get his lap back. And as they flash past down into turn 1 and 2, the sun just beginning to drop away and the light really disappears very quickly. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon here in California, but by the time it gets to about 5 p.m. the sun just disappears very quickly, and a fairly low sun for the drivers to have to deal with, in fact, going up the back stretch now. Bobby Rahal in that little group, he is running in 12th position in the overall standings, but of course some of the leaders are up amongst them. De Ferran still ahead of the race leader. De Ferran still trying to get himself onto that lead lap, well, not the lead lap, but to be 1 lap down only. And battles between Moore and Andretti there. Look, side by side, Greg Moore and Michael Andretti in the battle for 2nd place.
And the lap car there of Bobby Rahal, and Michael Andretti pulls to the inside. Ooh, jeepers, look at those two. There's Alex Zanardi on the dirt on the inside, and Greg Moore, and Zanardi gets past Greg Moore. Does he get past Michael as well? Yes, he does. Amazing.
Right, so here they come. But is it Zanardi or is that Greg Moore as they flash across De position. I think that's Vasser, actually. I think it's Jimmy Vasser who took that position. Jimmy Vasser, who's moved into second position. Maurizio Gugelmin, then, it is who leads. It's pretty confusing with the lapped cars in amongst them. There, I think, is... No, that's Vasser still. Vasser there, ahead of Rahal, who's been lapped. Then Michael Andretti. And... as they head down that back stretch, then it's Greg Moore, and then I think Alex has joined into that group.
That's right. There is, if you look at that, there's Paul Tracy there and Alex Zanardi, but it's very, very close, this lot.
It's pretty confusing, and
the lap cars in there don't help. That's the confusing bit, because you see the race leader Mauricio Gugelmin, and still ahead of him is Gilles de Ferran.
The light as well makes it difficult to identify the cars. They get the reflections on bodywork of the cars, and it's very difficult to pick out the distinct colours. Alex Zanardi and Paul Tracy virtually side by side. Tracy moving out of Rahal's slipstream in a very sudden manoeuvre across, but those two are both running well ahead of Greg Moore on the outside there.
Yeah, Greg Moore is falling back, actually. He was second place at the restart. He is now back to sixth place. So, well, call that fifth place, fifth and a half, I'd say.
So close, Zanardi and Moore there, but somehow there's just didn't seem to be room for them both, and they still made it round safely. And now Zanardi's dropped back a little bit. He lost a bit of the toe there, and so now he's got to work hard to pick it up again. Meanwhile, Greg Moore's picking up the toe from the lapped car of Bobby Rahal. Coming down on the inside is Brian Herter, but he's not featuring on the lead lap. He's also a couple of laps down.
And also Gilles de Ferran has lost that lap again to Mauricio Gugelmin. So Gugelmin has that one car cushion, well, briefly, as actually on the inside there, that is Bobby Rahal's car.
Yeah, and Zanardi trying to pick up the toe. Moore's got past Rahal now, and now Zanardi has the job to do. Rahal obviously running at a very, very competitive pace, and it's proving pretty hard for these guys to find a way past. The Ford power certainly providing plenty of straight line speed. There is our race leader then, Mauricio Gugelmin, and that's great to be able to announce that. But it is important to just mention, in fact, a point that Dario Franchitti mentioned just before he left us in this broadcast, that the wind has been picking up throughout the course of the afternoon, very much like it did yesterday in qualifying, in fact, and he said that the drivers really would be feeling the effect of that wind as it was getting stronger and stronger. And he reckoned it was blowing straight down the front stretch here. It's not a straight, it's a curve, but it would be blowing the cars straight down this front stretch, which is where the cars are here. As you look at the onboard camera, look at Andretti going for the lead here, trying to get past Mauricio Gugelmin. He goes to the inside and flashes past Mauricio Gugelmin. And as we get into under 50 laps to go now, remember, that $1 million prize that is on offer is beginning to focus the minds of these drivers, if they need any more focus, running at 240, 250 miles an hour. $1 million on the line here, if you can just plan it right. Mauricio Gugelmin second. Vasser there is in third position. De Ferran is the lapped car, now dropping back a little bit. After Jimmy Vasser, it's Paul Tracy, then Greg Moore, and Alex Zanardi's dropped back to sixth. Then it's Adrian Fernandez and Richie Hearn. The 20th lead change, that was. So we've had quite a few in this race. Not quite up to the standards of the Michigan Speedway race we saw earlier this year, but nonetheless, pretty exciting stuff.
Top four cars covered by 1 second there. There is Gilles de Ferran again, looking to the inside of Jimmy Vasser. There are the three cars ahead of Gilles de Ferran. We are on board with Gilles. Coming off turn 4, there's that huge packed grandstand there. And you can see the shadow there against the wall. They're down now into the sunlight. But look at that shadow on the front of Gilles' car. And you can see how low the sun now is in the sky. And as they come around the racetrack, there is Paul Tracy awfully close to the front wheel there of Gilles de Ferran's car. And Gilles just eased off the throttle and lets Paul Tracy go through there. And meanwhile now here is Greg Moore also looking to the inside of de Ferran, and is Alex Zanardi.
Yeah, Zanardi's featuring there as well. Zanardi lying in sixth place. Greg Moore down in fifth position now as he tries to work his way back to the leaders again. Well, where do you look next? It's pretty difficult. Vasser's just gone past Gugelmin, so now it's Michael Andretti leading. Vasser in second place. Third position. Paul Tracy is in fourth place. Greg Moore in fifth. Then the lapped car of Gilles de Ferran, and it's Alex Zanardi in sixth. Look at Tracy. Tracy's down the inside of Gugelmin. Makes that look very easy. So now Tracy moves up into third position. Gugelmin back down a place.
And 45 laps to go this time around. So 90 miles for these cars. And we are getting down to the nitty-gritty now. There will be one more pit stop in this race, and it'll come probably within the next 10-15 laps, but there's a lot to be played out here this afternoon. But there is Andretti, there was Vassar, there was Gugelmin, and Paul Tracy. There is Greg Moore in 5th place. Right behind him there is that is Gugelmin behind Moore, so those two changing positions again, and boy, it's close.
It is close, isn't it? Great racing between 6 cars at the moment. Zanardi's at the back of the train, but he's not far behind Gugelmin. You see Gugelmin now pass on the outside. Meanwhile, Jimmy Vassar has gone back past Michael Andretti. Change for the lead again as Vassar goes ahead, chasing 2nd place in the championship, chasing $1 million that are on offer here. And Vassar, who's won $1 million on one of these races before, feels good to do it again. There were movements behind. I couldn't quite see that was Zanardi trying to get past somebody, and it was almost 3 abreast as they went up into turn number 3. Hopefully they all survived that and have made it round another lap. And Andretti it is in 2nd place now behind Vassar, with down on the inside Greg Moore trying to get past Paul Tracy.
And yeah, there is Paul Tracy there, and Greg Moore, Vassar, Andretti, Tracy, and Moore there onto the back straight, followed by Gugelmin. And Andretti, he is looking strong, but Jimmy Vassar, as we saw there, just moved past him. Jimmy Vassar, he's driven a beautiful race this afternoon. He's not done anything out of the ordinary. He's maintained a good, steady pace all day long.
207 laps, 208 laps in fact, as they just flash across the line again. And Vassar, we watch from his onboard camera, pointing beneath the rear wing at Michael Andretti in 2nd. Now we switch that camera, looking from Michael's view as he chases down the race leader. 1 pit stop still to go, remember, but the excitement really beginning to build here. We've got 6 cars at least, perhaps even as many as 10 cars, all in with a chance of winning this race.
Yeah, and Mark Blundell, he just moved past Richie Hearn into 7th place. Next in his sights will be Alex Zanardi. So Blundell is beginning to move forward again, the 2nd of the Pac West cars. They've had a miserable season, but they've both run very, very well today. That is Gugelmin and Blundell.
Vassar leads then, Andretti 2nd, Tracy 3rd, Moore is 4th, but there's plenty of battling to do here. Stay with us. Against the wall. The safety crew is there. The driver, Michael Andretti, has been on the radio, but he may be hurt. It was a huge accident against the wall. Michael Andretti lost it on his own, and on the radio we heard him say it was my mistake. He radioed in to Ed Nathman, his crew chief, and said it was my mistake. And we've seen a replay where Michael actually got down onto the apron over the white line coming through turn 3 and 4, and then the car let go.
Yeah, just to explain what the apron is, below the white line there that separates the racing groove from the inside flat part of the racetrack. There's quite a transition there where the banking starts, and you really don't want to get down on that apron. If you get onto the apron there below that white line, the car effectively goes across a bend in the road surface, a marked bend in the race surface, and you lose all your downforce, and around you go.
Leaders into the pits. This is a vital pit stop. It will be the last pit stop of the day for the race leaders. Michael Andretti was in the battle. Good news, by the way. Michael Andretti's out of the car. The applause goes around the whole speedway, and that's good news indeed as he's out of the car. And well, we had feared that he may have been hurt. They thought initially he may have been, but he is okay. So that's great news. Gugelmin's got out from his pit stop. Jimmy Vassar sits there waiting for the fuel. Oh, they've got a problem on the right rear. Slow, they get away with it just about. Zanardi right behind Vassar now as they rejoin. And let's see, Tracy's got out well. He's ahead of Moore. I think Gugelmin was first out though.
And right in front of us here was where Michael Andretti's car came to rest. And I can report that Michael walked to the ambulance under his own power. Huge cheer from the grandstands just to our right here. And Mikey looked fine. He gave him a good wave, a hearty wave. Clearly terribly disappointed. We think it was his mistake there, and he lost control of the car. You know, it's awfully difficult at those speeds when you're traveling at 240 miles an hour. That is equivalent to covering the length of a football field, a soccer field, in 1 second. And when you just get slightly off your correct line, the line you want to take, there's really no chance to to make a correction and get back up that 6 feet up the racetrack that he really needed there. So big disappointment.
Let's see what happened here. You can see the car, he's already lost it. We'll see another replay in a moment of where it started, but look at this impact and look at the fireball that erupted from the back of the car. That was the biggest accident we've seen this weekend into the wall, I think.
Well, again, that is the gearbox compressing and disintegrating at the back of the car, and that is all the oil from the gearbox igniting. There we see another view of that accident there from on top of the grandstands there, a long view of that crash and a heavy rear end impact. It looks more dramatic. Well, it is pretty dramatic, but here you can see Mikey turning into the corner, and he's on a much lower groove than the race leader Jimmy Vasser. But here, look, he gets down onto the white line there, and around she goes right away. You can see that left front wheel just cocked up a little bit as it got onto the flat part of the track, and then he's a passenger, and he just hangs on there, and he hopes it's not going to hurt too much.
Yeah, nothing else you can do, but thankfully it didn't wrap anybody else up in it again, similar to Pruitt's accident earlier on. Nobody else involved, everyone was low down. One or two others were just over that white line there, I noticed, as they came around, although they may have backed off a fraction, having seen something going on ahead of them. But Michael just making a little error there, little error of judgment, of control, whatever, and he is out of the race when it looks as though he was really in with a shout of winning today. $1 million have just gone out the window for Michael Andretti. Mauricio Gugelmin's looking good. He's leading now. Yeah. Maurizio Gugelmin is race leader. Pace car is still out there as a result of the accident for Michael Andretti. Car has been moved away now. Michael Andretti walked into the ambulance, but right in front of our commentary booth there's a whole lot of dust being put down to try and clean up the fluids that came from beneath Michael Andretti's car. Further back around the wall there's a clean-up operation going on, bits of debris being picked up, and the sweepers out there as well. So it's going to take a few more minutes before we get into the final stint of this race. There are 34 laps to go as we stand at the moment. With a few more laps of yellow to go, it's probably going to be under 30 laps, which will be the final sprint to the flag and to $1 million prize fund for the winner.
Wow. And there is Mauricio Gugelmin, and the reason he is in the lead now, he came into the pits in 4th place, but yet another sensational stop by Mark Moore's crew down there in the Pac West Racing Group pit. That's twice it's really been noticeable this afternoon. They have serviced that car more quickly than anybody else, and that has enabled him to take the lead of the race.
So, and indeed his teammate Mark Blundell has moved up into 4th place. The main loser in that last run of pit stops was Jimmy Vasser, who's dropped down to 5th position. Alex Zanardi right behind him in 6th place. Jimmy had a slow stop at the right rear, what caused the problem. There's a recap of the race. Gugelmin is leader at the moment. We've had 7 leaders, 21 changes of lead, 7 caution periods lasting 57 laps. 11 cars have gone out, the most recent of which, of course, Michael Andretti after the accident into the wall. Most of the other drivers who've gone out of the race have been through mechanical failures rather than accident damage, although we've seen 1 or 2 other cars hit the wall, notably Scott Pruitt and Andre Ribeiro.
And also under this caution, the 2 Team Rahal cars, Bobby Rahal and Brian Herter, did not make a pit stop. They were a lap down. They are gambling that there will be 1 more caution before the end of the race. They will need a pit stop. If they're 1 lap down, they haven't a hope of winning this motor race. If they stay out there and hope there's going to be another yellow, if there is a yellow, then they can regain that lead lap, they hope.
Well, we shall see. Let's take a chance. They take this chance to look back over the highlights of today's race so far. The start of the race, it was Scott Pruitt on pole position in front of this massive crowd of 105,000 people filling to capacity these new grandstands. Only the 2nd year that the race has been run on this new facility. Scott Pruitt had the initial advantage, but all through the day, Greg Moore has featured as consistent front runner. So had Michael Andretti, and Andretti grabbed the initiative from Greg Moore in a 3-way fight as they got held up behind Alex Barron.
There you can see, well, there, not quite so good news for Arndt Meyer there in the Lola. A major Ford engine failure there for Arndt Meyer. Great shame for him. He's been running solid. He was a couple of laps down, but was running all right.
So Meyer went out. He wasn't the only engine failure that we saw throughout, though, because Dario Franchitti was one of the next major engine failures, and indeed he'd been running in a strong 2nd place leading to that. So disappointment for the Honda power unit on that occasion.
Nobody's been picky here. That was a Ford, that was a Honda. We had a couple of Mercedes go out as well. So, you know, it's a hard strain on these engines. This is a long race. The cars are running at top speed, full throttle all the way around this track.
Then there was problems for Alex Zanardi in the pits. He thought he got the signal to go. He went. The fuel hose was still connected and his refueler was knocked to the ground, thankfully without injury, and Zanardi had to serve a penalty.
Yeah, actually, luckily it was the vent hose rather than the fuel hose. A little later on, though, that was Scott Pruitt hitting the wall heavily in front of us in turn 4.
Yep, Scott Pruitt, who had been featuring well up in the race, had got himself back onto the lead lap, but then crashed out through his own mistakes, he said. Richie Hearn then lost control of his car, just avoided spinning when he accelerated out of the pits after one of his pit stops. He did actually spin out as he got back off the grass onto the tarmac and then pointed the correct way. And then the most recent accident, that of Michael Andretti, who lost it when he looked to be very much in the hunt for the race win.
I'd say I think Mikey was really looking strong today. He's had all sorts of bad luck this season, but we think we've got a word now with Michael Andretti down in the pit lane, and he'd been running strongly all day long. He was really looking good for this weekend. He needed to finish off his season with a victory. He started the year with a win at Homestead, of course, and all sorts of bad luck since then.
So Michael Andretti has made his way back down to pit lane. We're hoping to go down there any moment to hear what he has to say about what looked to be a very nasty accident indeed. Thankfully he is okay, that's the main thing, and the clear-up operation still continues. Let's hear from him.
In one piece from the CART Medical Center, we saw that you went below the white line. Is that what caused it?
Yeah, that's what happened. I just I was having a little problem seeing. My windscreen was a little too high and it was all full of rubber, and then there was the glare of the sun, and I just went down too far, and you know, I was trying to get as much track as I could when I was behind Jimmy, because I had a little bit of understeer, and I just got under the line and hit the apron, and that was it. I hit pretty hard.
Who do you think has the strongest car out there right now?
I really think Jimmy does, because when I was by myself in the lead, I could only run 224, but then Jimmy gets in front, he can run 227s and pull me around, so I think Jimmy looks like the strongest.
How much time do you take off before you start testing and getting ready for next year?
2 weeks we start testing, so it's flat out.
Okay, as soon as those blackout dates are over, he'll be back in the car. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks.
It's a busy time for these drivers. We're getting ready for the restart.
And Michael there talked about the glare. That's not an excuse, let me tell you. The glare as the cars turn into turn 3 really is intense. But here we are, back to green with 30 laps remaining.
Around they come then, 221 laps this will be completed in the book, and Maurizio Gugelmin is passed immediately by Paul Tracy. Paul Tracy goes into the lead of the race, and after what has been an awful season for Tracy, what a story it would be if he could come through to take the win on this occasion. But don't count out Greg Moore. Greg Moore is in 3rd position. He's been dropped back a little bit on the restart, though. These two really made a good restart, and everyone else got a bit left behind.
Yeah, not quite sure what the rest of them are doing. They had a brilliant restart by Paul Tracy there. I mean, Gugelmin got away well, but Tracy was right with him and able to burst on past him there. And smoke from Gugelmin. Oh, it could have been the oil dry. Beg your pardon. Sorry to false alarm there. As they came past here, there was a big plume of spray from the back of Tracy's car. I think that was the oil dry, as incidentally Bobby Rahal pulls into the pits in front of us.
So Rahal has decided he's got to come into the pits. They tried to stay out, but it must be a problem, I would think, for him to come in so soon after going green. Tracy leads, Gugelmin 2nd, Moore 3rd, with Vassar in 4th. No, it's Zanardi in 4th place, then Vassar in 5th place. Well, we heard what Michael Andretti said just now. He reckoned that Jimmy had one of the best cars out there, but at the moment Zanardi got past Vassar, and that's an interesting situation to see. In the meantime, Bobby Rahal is in the pit lane, refueling for him. Looks standard. Doesn't look as though they've done anything different to the car.
No, he pretty much needed, he and his teammate Brian Herter gambled on there being another yellow. They needed it pretty soon. They needed it right away, obviously, did Bobby Rahal. It didn't come out. He has to make that pit stop.
Look at Moore. He's closed up behind Maurizio Gugelmin in spite of the big gap that had developed. And now Gugelmin, oh, it's so close there. It looked as though Moore was going to go to the outside. Then Gugelmin ran up to the wall, and Moore suddenly had to cut back down again. And that all looked a little close. The dust again was the cement dust that's been put down. It's not cement dust, it's a more absorbent material than that they use over here. It was just a kick of that you saw, but adds to the drama. And now Zanardi, Alex Zanardi going past Greg Moore. So that puts Zanardi up into third position. Still a long way to go. 26 laps, $1 million on the line here. Moore goes back past Zanardi, and this is proving to be an absolutely tremendous race. It's Paul Tracy who's opened up just a little bit of an advantage there as this battle for second place continues. Moore now goes back into second place. Greg Moore's featured all afternoon. He's been fast all afternoon. Zanardi now trying to get past Gugelmin, and Vasser's got a run on both of them. Vasser's gone past Zanardi and Gugelmin in one go. Fabulous stuff.
Gosh, great stuff there. And there is Zanardi alongside Gugelmin as they come off turn 4. Vasser gets past them, both of them. Also there, Zanardi goes through as well. So they are now in third and fourth places. And out in front of the pack, still Paul Tracy, then Greg Moore, then Vasser, Zanardi. And there is Adrian Fernandez making a move too.
Yeah, Adrian Fernandez has appeared now. The man who started at the back of the grid, remember. Last on the grid with Dennis Vitolo. And now Fernandez is up with this lead group. Tracy leads, Moore second, Vasser is in third. Tracy's lapping very quickly indeed, and Moore trying to close up on his fellow Canadian, but it's not happening that fast as yet, but gradually easing that gap in. Remember what Greg Moore did at Michigan earlier this year. He timed it to perfection to come through to take the victory. This time there's $1 million on the line, and he wants to time it to perfection again. Vasser is third, there's Zanardi, then it's Fernandez. Behind Fernandez, Maurizio Gugelmin has dropped from leading to be down in 6th place, and he's got Mark Blundell close behind him in 7th.
And the top 6 cars covered by 2.7 seconds. But there you can see the gap between the first 3. That is Paul Tracy. There is Greg Moore out of the screen. There is Jimmy Vasser. Behind Jimmy Vasser is Alex Zanardi. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Fantastic racing, isn't it now? The top 4 cars pretty close together in terms of the slipstream. Paul Tracy running very competitively on his own, but is it going to be enough? Zanardi and Vasser slipstreaming past each other. They might be able to help one another if they work together to actually close up on the 2 Canadians and then have their own little battle for the win. This time around there'll be 21 laps to go of this 2-mile track. 3 of the top 4 cars Honda powered, the odd one out Mercedes-Benz power, courtesy of Greg Moore. He is really looking good here today. Tracy still with the slight advantage as they go along the backstretch into the wind on that backstretch. Now Vasser comes back past Zanardi. These two definitely towing each other a little bit and trying to use the speed that they gain from being in each other's slipstream to close the gap up to the cars ahead.
And you know, fuel is an issue. We've got, when they went green again, we had 29 laps to go, and they had already done 8 laps under caution. Let's say they can do 2 laps worth of green flag racing under yellow, if you see what I mean. They use half as much fuel as they would under green flag conditions. That means that we've got to do 35, 36 laps. That's closest when you turn that mixture as rich as it'll go to try and get maximum power out of these engines.
So they have to watch the fuel as well. It's not just about running flat out to the finish. They have to be aware of the fuel consumption. They may be wondering if there'll be another yellow. We've seen it in a number of recent races. An incident late in the race has caused a problem. Of course, the last 2 races have been won under yellow flag. Slightly strange conditions in Houston. That was as a result of the rain. But in Surfers Paradise, it was as a result of accident damage. Paul Tracy, though, doing a fine job up front at the moment.
Yeah, boy, Dario, he was cheering for Paul Tracy, his teammate. And Paul, as we talked about earlier on, kept a pretty low profile through the first 400 miles. That, as any oval track racer, and Rick Mears was always the master on the ovals, he said you can forget about the first 400 miles. You just need to be on the lead lap, have a good consistent car, and then you put the pedal to the metal. And that is what Paul Tracy has done this afternoon. Look at this train of cars. Tracy, Moore, Vasser, Zanardi and Fernandez there.
So Moore trying to close up onto Paul Tracy, and it's still proving to be a great battle. Now Moore getting a little closer. We hear that Greg is saving revs a little bit. He's still using 6th gear, the highest gear he can, trying not to rev that engine too hard. He might still go to that, of course, in the last lap or so. He doesn't want to blow up with 10 laps to go as he did last year when he was leading this race.
And talking of blowing up with 10 laps to go, Brian Herder just made a pit stop. I'm going to say he'd been running very strongly. He'd moved his way past Mark Blundell, and then he had to make a pit stop because, of course, he did not stop under that previous sequence. So he needed to go on around, and he then made that stop and back in the sequence now, but 1 lap down.
Tracy still manages to control the pace here. No one has been able to close up and really pick up the toe in the last few laps. Is Paul? Oh, there's a blow up. It's debris for De Ferran. It comes from the tyre, that smoke, isn't it? Or is it from the engine? Hard to work out.
Say from here, but certainly
must be the engine. Otherwise, the tyre is still up. Apparently, we had a spinner in turn number 2. Mark Blundell. There he is. Blundell spun in turn number 2. That has led to some incident there with Gilles de Ferran. The yellows are out, and the leaders will all concertina together for the final blast. Now there are 15 laps to go. There may be some debris on track, we're being told, but there's no actual cars off in the wall anywhere. So it's going to take a few laps, but not too many, to clear this up. Gilles de Ferran's coming into the pits. You have to stay with us. We're building up to a tremendous climax for $1 million here in California. Moment. There are 14 laps to go here. We still have to wait for the clear-up operation to finish, although there shouldn't be too many bits and pieces. There are a couple of safety cars down at turns 1 and 2. One car coming into the pits just there, but the lead cars are the ones we're worried about. They are Tracy, who leads at the moment, Greg Moore second, Jimmy Vasser, who's riding on board his car at the moment, third. Alex Zanardi is right behind him in fourth. Adrian Fernandez, who's got a great deal of Mexican support in the stands. It's Richie Hearn in the pits there. Richie Hearn, who was running in 9th place before he made that stop.
Yeah, 8th place actually, and he'll only lose 1 position, but on the in the overall running order, but he'll lose an awful lot of track position. There's still 16 cars still running, and so he will drop from 8th in that line to the back end, to 16th on the road, and that's a long way back. You've got to pass a lot of cars before you then be able to make up a position. And if we've got 13 laps to go now, it'll be 12 next time around. Probably another couple of laps of yellow. That leaves him only 10 laps to pass, well, 16 cars. That's a tall order.
He must have been pretty marginal on fuel, otherwise they wouldn't have taken that decision, I'm sure. He was slightly out of sequence, wasn't he, from the others?
Well, he was back on sequence before this stop, because they all stopped on lap 213. All the leaders did that time around, and with this yellow, one would have thought they should have had enough fuel to get to the end. Perhaps he thought a set of fresh tyres might help him. Maybe that's the strategy by John Della Penna's crew.
Okay, lap and a half until green. We've got a great overhead view there of the track, and look at the fans gathered together here, building up to this tremendous climax. $1 million on the line to the winner of the race. Second place gets only $60,000. It's all about winning. It's not about finishing second here today. The championship is all wrapped up. Second place in the series is important for Vasser, but the $1 million is more important.
Yeah,
and
he'll take 1 million over $500,000
yes,
today, Ben.
That's right, I think so. So he'll be going for the win. There you are. Look at the fast laps of the day so far. That has to favour Greg Moore. Look at Mark Blundell. He's done well in terms of fast laps. Yeah, and some pretty good laps from Blundell, but he had a spin just now, remember, so he's been pushed down to 8th
Yeah,
place.
look at all those fairly early in the race there by Greg Moore.
So the pace car leads them round. Paul Tracy and Greg Moore, 2 Canadian drivers. Team Green and Forsyth, their teams. Jimmy Vasser right behind with Alex Zanardi, the 2 Ganassi teammates, trying to finish 1-2 in the championship, trying to win $1 million. Adrian Fernandez is in 5th place. He's worked his way up from the very back of the field in today's race. Winner of 2 races this year. Maurizio Gugelmin then in 6th position, but he seemed to drop back a little bit in the last few laps. All of the top 5, apart from Paul Tracy, who is the man leading at the moment, have won on oval tracks so far this year. Tracy is the man who's had the worst year, you have to say that. He's had a really bad run of luck. He's also made a lot of mistakes along the way. It's really been a disastrous season for him. His best result this year, 5th position. He's had 3 of them, 3 5th places, but he hasn't been on the podium once, and yet here he is in with a chance of winning the big one for the $1 million.
$1 million. That's a lot of money in anybody's book. And after the year that Paul Tracy have had, it's going to look even more money. But let's just set the scene again. Then we've got Paul Tracy out of the front. There is Greg Moore, the blue car right behind him. Jimmy Vasser, Alex Zanardi, those two target Reynard Honda twins once again right in the thick of the things. Of course, it was Moore, Vasser and Zanardi, wasn't it, that was battling it out for that win at Michigan earlier in the season. And Tracy was right with them as well, not far behind. Behind Zanardi in 5th place, Adrian Fernandez, then Mauricio Gugelmin, Christian Fittipaldi, Mark Blundell and Richie Hurd. 9 cars on the lead lap, and we're going to have 10 laps to go when they come past to take the green flag this time around.
And Paul Tracy has set off on the backstretch. He's put his foot down hard. The pace car is in, and we're under race conditions. There'll be 10 laps to go as they cross the line. A good restart again from Tracy and Moore, which has pulled them away slightly from Vasser and Zanardi. 10 laps to go then, and oh, it's yellow. There's an accident. There's a car in the wall on the front stretch. I can't see who it is. There are wheels bouncing all over the place, and this could be a disaster. 2 cars involved. 2 cars. Brian Herter is one of them, and one of the MCI cars behind him, and I can't tell whether it's Papis or Robbie Gordon.
Yeah, tough to say. Certainly Max Papis is behind, and that was the order they came past here on that lap. They were both 1 lap down in 12th and 13th place, Herter and Max Papis.
Now what this does mean is that this race may yet finish under yellow flag, because there are only 10 laps to go. Will they get this cleaned up in time?
Yeah, it'll be touch and go. There's hopefully there won't be too much debris. There's a hand for Brian Herter. Of course, these two getting acquainted. Next year, of course, they will be teammates at Team Rahal, and this is not the way. They wanted to get to know each other a little bit better, and Herter there just checking into the cockpit to make sure Max is okay.
Well, let's hope he is. It's obviously a very nasty situation when 2 cars get together, and that's what happened on the restart. Came together somewhere coming out of turn 4. The accident then took place going across start-finish line, and you can see it's come to rest through the curve of the D. It's a D-shaped oval, this one, at Fontana, just like Michigan, very much the same layout. But this front stretch, therefore, has a long curve all the way down to turns 1 and 2. Just look at the amount of debris there, Jeremy. That's going to take a good old time to clear up.
Yeah, it is. There is a lot of debris down there. You're absolutely right, Ben, and that's a shame.
Well, we'll have to stay with it and see what happens. The safety crew's going to work as fast as possible, but it could be good news for Paul Tracy. So let's see if we get a chance to hear from Brian Herter.
Of his pits coming down for that restart. Brian, tell us what happened.
I'm not really sure. I think that Max was on the outside of me and we touched. I didn't even know he was there. And if that was the case, then it was my fault, and I feel bad about it because you know, obviously took us out of the race, took him out of the race, and that's a bad deal. But you know, if that's not what happened, then something broke because the car turned sideways in a big hurry.
Do you like racing with this Hanford device and the type of close quarter action it's provided us at Michigan and here again at California?
I liked it better in the second half of the race when we got the car working. It was a little scary at first, for me anyways, because my car wasn't very good in the beginning of the race, but we made it pretty good there at the end, and I was really starting to have some fun with it, and you know, that's kind of a tough way to end the season.
Happy you're all right.
Well, thank you, me too.
Jan?
And Max Papis has climbed from his car as well. And Max, Brian said he's not sure what happened. How did it unfold from your seat?
I think he didn't see. I was just right there on the outside, and he just squeezed me in the wall. Possibly didn't see, but I was completely on his outside, and he just moved towards the wall. I guess he didn't see.
What he said was he did not see you coming, and if you were on the outside of him, it was his fault, and he apologized.
It's okay, you know, he's going to be my teammate next year, but, you know, it's fine. You know, I wanted to finish my last race for MCI Toyota in a good way, and he's going to be for next year.
All right, thank you, Max. Thank you.
What a great shame to see them both go out in the closing stages of this race, and the other great shame, of course, is that it could rob us of what should have been the most amazing climax to this race.
Yeah, I think the pace car, I would say, has cut its pace quite considerably. I think they will try to run this around as slowly as they possibly can without causing a problem for the drivers, of course. And there's an enormous amount of people there, and trucks and safety crews and sweepers and everything else trying to get this race track cleared up. We still have 7 to go. It was 6 this time around. And I think, as I say, the pace car has slowed down, and I reckon that we will have time for probably a couple of laps or so of green flag racing. I certainly hope so, Ben.
Yeah, I hope so. We've been here all afternoon waiting for this last little climax to build up, and it really has built up wonderfully well with some top drivers featuring all afternoon. The car's definitely been taken away. I've just seen that cross the end of the pit lane, so they've taken, well, certainly one of them. I think both cars, in fact, are off track. Yeah, the other one's down on the grass there. So they've got the cars out of the way, but it's the clearing up the debris that takes the time.
Yeah, and there's still a huge crowd here. Everybody is standing in their grandstands. It's a huge grandstand. You get a pretty good view, and everybody is on their feet, even though it's under yellow. They're craning around to see how the clean-up operation is going. And the infield, too, absolutely packed with motorhomes and RVs and all sorts of stuff. It's a tremendous sight here this afternoon. The sun is getting low in the sky, and it's casting long shadows over this racetrack, but the lighting here really is wonderful, and I really hope we can get this cleared up and have at least a couple of laps dash to the finish. It's going to be not for the faint of heart, though, that.
No, that's right. It's going to be tough to be back up to speed. They've been going pretty slowly here behind the pace car, as you said. They really have reduced it to crawling pace, but let's just hope that there's a chance that they will run. Now, as we've got a moment, let's take this opportunity to pay a little tribute to two drivers who will not be competing in the series next year. We've mentioned them in the broadcast, and we've put together a little package to feature both Alex Zanardi and Bobby Rahal. In their last race in the championship, Zanardi, maybe not forever, but certainly for Rahal. And we'd like to just show you this, our little tribute to both Bobby Rahal and Alex Zanardi, before hopefully we get a last run to the flag. We haven't quite got to that stage yet, but a goodbye indeed it is to Bobby Rahal and to Alex Zanardi. What a great sight it is to see they're both in the race. Bobby not quite so well up. He's down in 12th position, but it would be fun if he could score a point on his last outing for the Champ Cars. And Zanardi's still featuring, of course. He's in 4th position in this race at the moment. And 5 laps to go. How's the cleanup operation going, you'll ask? Well, I can't see any safety cars up in that area where the accident happened. I can see that they've all cleared the area. And so we really may get a chance for a couple of laps of green flag running. That's good news, and they've done an amazing job to clear that up so quickly. Now, they're really going to have to be careful. You could hear Jimmy Vasser just spinning the rear wheels on his car. I tell you what, the tyre temperatures will have dropped. They could easily just lose control of the cars, accelerating away, let alone once they get it into the corners.
So the pace car lights are out. It's over. It's coming out of turn 2. We're in turn 4. We can't see the pace car, but word is that the pace car lights are out, and we will have a 4-lap dash to the finish line, Ben.
Yes, we will, but what's happened? Why was that car? That was, I don't think... Oh, Tracy has spun. It was Tracy's car parked at the side. Tracy's lost it on the restart. They're staying yellow, and Tracy, I don't believe it. He's lost it as he tried to accelerate on the restart. Tracy has thrown it away, and his awful season has just turned even worse, if it was possible. $1 million on the line, and he blew it on the restart. He lost control of his car under acceleration, and we're about to have a look at the replay. There is Paul Tracy, and that is what happened. He got his foot down, and the back end stepped down. Exactly what we were talking about. Cold tyres. He lost it.
Well, that is absolutely amazing. At this stage in the race, there's Paul Tracy there. And goodness me, I mean, we've seen that on the pace lap before the start of a race when the tyres are cold. And certainly, obviously, the tyres have lost a lot of temperature from going around behind the pace car. But he's already done 20, 30 laps of green flag racing. And there is Barry Green there. And he just can't believe it. And the rest of the crew there, there's Lisa there in the background, his wife, and Tom Elliott from Lisa getting a cuddle there from Don Halliday, Dario Franchini's engineer. And boy, that's hard to, that's just amazing. Here's Barry Green.
Green, what a tough break. I mean, did you ever think, I know you were telling him to get charged up, get a good restart, but I guess the tires were still cold?
Well, I mean, I obviously don't know what happened. It was all going to come down to the restart, and he drove such a perfect race all day, and just 4 laps to go, and I think he could have held him off that close to $1 million bucks. But I guess that just sums up our season. You know, he's had a rough season, but I tell you what, he's a hell of a racer. He'll be back really strong next year. We'll be back real strong next year. So.
Now, what are you going to do in a situation where you're not even sure? I mean, he's been banned from the first race of the season. How can you get him pumped up for a whole new season?
We'll be back next year. We'll be real strong. This kid is very, very good. Dario Franchini's very, very good. The team is excellent right now. We'll be back with a big punch next year.
Thanks, Barry.
Well, how can you describe the disappointment that they must be feeling at this point? They are going to get one finger this time by. What will that give them? 1 lap?
Yeah, 1 lap, Ben. And it's a shame, you know, that car was well out of the way. It really wasn't going to cause an accident, even if anybody else had spun off there and hit it. It was on the inside of the racetrack, and hard to imagine it really causing any problems there. A shame, perhaps, that they weren't able to get it out of the way in 1 lap and get going for at least a 2-lap dash to finish. But 1 lap is what it will be. They come past here to take, that is lap 248. And look at this first 3. This looks awfully familiar. Greg Moore, Jimmy Vasser, Alex Zanardi. That's exactly how the US 500 finished in July.
Amazing, isn't it? The same 3 cars. Would you credit it? Moore, Vasser, Zanardi, the same 3 who battled on that last lap. Greg Moore timed it to perfection to come through and take the win, and he has definitely got the advantage here. He is in the lead. He can determine the pace as they come round, and he will set off in just a moment. The pace car light is out. From now on, they are racing, and when Greg decides to go for it, everyone else goes for it as well. And can he hold it? Can he keep it under control? Look at them trying to find the right position. They will have a lap and a half once they really start to go for it. Moore begins to pick it up, and away they go. And Vasser in second place, Zanardi in third. This is it. This is the battle is on now for 1 1/3 laps. They come out of turns 3 and turn 4. As they go across the line this time, the white flag will be shown, which indicates just 1 lap to go. And Vasser goes to the outside. Vasser goes to the inside. Zanardi on the inside now, and Vasser's in the lead. And Zanardi's in second place. Moore is back down to third, but now Moore's perfectly lined up to pick up the toe as they come out of turn 2. Zanardi trying to protect his position. Moore goes to the outside and takes that second place, or does he? Vasser's in the lead. It looks like Vasser's going to win $1 million. They come through turn 3, turn number 4, and for the second time in his career, Jimmy Vasser is going to win $1 million. Jimmy Vasser wins it. Greg Moore is second. Alex Zanardi third, just from Adrian Fernandez, who almost took that podium finish at the line. But it's Ganassi Racing. Vasser has taken second place in the championship. It's a 1-2 in the championship for the team, and Jimmy Vasser has won $1 million here today. $500,000 for being second in the championship. It's payday for Jimmy Vasser, and look at their celebrations. Zanardi and Vasser, Greg Moore lining up on the inside, and well, the same 3 who fought for it in Michigan, they fought for it here in Fontana, and this time Jimmy Vasser came on top. There's Chip
Ganassi being correct. That's his father on the right hand side. Barry Sheen down there as well, a former motorcycle world champion, of course, this weekend. Cheering on that team. There is Chip Ganassi, and say the background there, Floyd. He's always in the background, is Floyd. What a character that man is. He is wonderful. He is the guy that made the money for this family. And Chip, Floyd Jr., taking advantage of that, putting together this fantastic race team, and Jimmy Vasser taking full advantage this afternoon.
The reliability record that these guys have built up is just astounding, and their performance as well. How do they do it? Time after time, race after race, they are always there. Jimmy Jimmy Vasser, Alex Zanardi, first and third in this race, first and second in the championship. They've won the last 3 championships. What more can you say about this team?
Not a lot, and there goes Jimmy Vasser, and just elation for him, of course. He won the championship 2 years ago in '96. There he is, waving to all the fans, and it'll be a really popular victory. Jimmy Vasser is a native Californian. He lives now in Las Vegas. Even that's not too far away. And Jimmy, he's been outshadowed perhaps by Alex these last couple of years, but he has contributed so much to this team. And listen to the crowd.
They love it, don't they? They've just seen a man win $1 million, and they are lapping it up. And what a tremendous finale. And well done to Cart for getting those cars cleared up out of the way so that we did get that last lap dash to the flag. It really made it happen. It was fantastic to see. And Vasser, well, Michael Andretti predicted it, didn't he? He said he had a great car. Vasser came through for the win. And he is such a star on the ovals, fast on the road courses as well. But that's his 3rd victory of the season. Brilliant stuff from Jimmy Vasser. Greg Moore 2nd and Alex Zanardi 3rd.
Jimmy Vasser, before that final pit stop on lap 2, before the final pit stop on lap 211, he was leading the race. He came out of the pits in 5th place after that slow stop. It took him quite a while to move. It took him about 5 laps to begin to move forward, but there he came up through the field and won the race.
Results: Vasser, Moore, Zanardi, followed up by Fernandez, Guterman and Blundell. His best result of the year for Mark. Fittipaldi, Hearn, Robbie Gordon, Helio Castroneves, Bobby Rahal scoring points in his last outing in 11th place, so good news there. Michel Jourdain Jr. picking up the last point, so that's a good performance for the young Mexican as well. A tremendous finale to the season with Vasser and $1 million. Jimmy Vasser down in the pit lane. Let's see if we can catch up and get a word with him.
That's what the big bucks do, and what a payday for...